Good evening, Clashers and Clashettes, and welcome back to the Clash Royale North American Open, officially presented by Supercell. We're in day two right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Christian.
I'm Ella.
And today we are bringing you yet again some of the greatest Clash Royale battles you will ever see.
Ever, of all time.
Ever.
And we have over 500,000 people competing over the next 4 weeks in our open qualifiers. And then they will come into days like today, which are the Coronation days, and then the winner from there, like our winner last night, Ender, will go to the arena battles, and then from there, the crown duels.
That's right.
And the winner will win $15,000 out of a $100,000 prize pool and get a chance to go to the Supercell headquarters.
That's right. That's what all these guys here are playing for. Already over 40,000 of you guys at home have signed up for these tournaments, and we are now again to our second day's top 8 for this Coronation. Before we get into that, let's talk about the prizes that they will be playing for. First place today is playing for $2,000. Second place, $500. Third and fourth place taking home $300 each. And finally, fifth or eighth, all taking home a Benjamin on their way home. And again, first place gets that chance to move on to those crown duels, and like you said, Supercell HQ, which would be super amazing and fun. Before we get into today's top 8, a quick looking at our format that we're running here at the Clash Royale North American Opens. We run the standard tournament cap with the dual deck submission. Players will submit 2 of their decks to us, both being unique decks. And by unique, we just mean at least 4 cards different. To move on, it's super simple. You just got to beat your opponent with both of your decks before they beat you with theirs, and boom, you're one step closer to the top. Really easy.
Just do it.
Just like we saw yesterday. Anyway, you guys have been killing it. Let's take a look at today's top 8. Up first, we have Darth Jar Jar versus Trainer Rubens.
And then we have Lozano versus Eric.
Third, Heels versus Clyde.
And finally, Sui Generis versus Goose 13.
Some fantastic names. And again, just getting here to this top 8 is a huge feat.
Impressive.
They've gone through so many people who've been playing all day. They've been marathoning this thing.
Yeah, Clash Geniuses.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Clash Geniuses, which
we are
luckily
not.
we are not. So we have 2 gentlemen here who are here to help us out. They are the geniuses. They know everything there is to know about this fantastic game. So let's go on over and meet them today. I'm on the red couch, and I am joined by the creator and host of the Super Magical Cup. It's Rainey. How you doing, sir?
Doing very, very well.
Good to see you.
And
Good to be on this
we're
side.
still in the Clash Royale
I
North
see
American
how
Open.
it is.
Yeah.
They're just going to step all over your intro.
Red couch people.
Wow, whoa.
Well, I have Rumham over here, and he's so much more awesome than you guys. So, like,
Yeah.
So take that.
We're
a divided
We're just
country.
gonna fight. We're just gonna fight right now. No, that's not right. Anyway, we are here, guys. Day 2. Before we go into what's happening today and the kind of matchups, let's talk about the first opening, which was just yesterday.
so crazy.
Ender and Marcel, our first finalists going in. Ender taking Marcel, coming back down 2-0, winning 3 games in a row, having cards down. Expos we saw. Let's just quickly walk through, Rainey, yesterday, your kind of first thoughts, reactions.
My reaction is that I am super pleased because Ender was a player. Actually, after he won, there was a lot of kind of talk about Ender, and Ender came in and talked to the community a little bit.
Yeah.
And as to my recollection, he said that he didn't compete in other community tournaments or things like Super Magical Cup before because he actually didn't feel like he was a pro-level player.
Wow.
And so then came time for the Clash Royale North American Open,
He's like, I'll try it out.
and
Guys.
he tried it out.
it was also his birthday.
That's right. It was his birthday. So
He
happy,
turned 19 yesterday.
yeah, happy 19th belated
freaking
birthday. What a great
Ender.
present. $2,000.
And right after he was done, he had some schoolwork to do.
Well,
True story.
True story. He's like, doing it. All right, do some math.
Sad
Good
emoji.
math.
Right.
Good for
I
him.
think the story of yesterday as well was all of the expos. I mean, we saw
So many expos.
Every member of the top
It was
8
everyone.
brought at least one expo deck, and the
Yeah.
finalists were each had 2 expo decks.
Yep.
I think what happened there is that when you ever have a big event like this, and then also a brand new field of cards, there's a balance update that went in recently. People get together and they go, what's the best deck? What can we do? I think everyone in secret arrived that Expo was the best deck, and they all brought it, and it turns out they show up and they're all wearing the same dress to the party, right? Like, what are you gonna do?
Guess that happens sometimes.
Today, very, very different top 8. We were looking at the decks, less than, well, only half the players brought Expos. No one brought 2 Expo decks, and there are so many different decks represented, including some old foes that we haven't seen in a long time.
Oh, like-
I'll leave that to be, I don't know. I'll leave that to be
a little
secret.
teaser.
A little teaser.
All right. Well, so now this is the thing too. We talked about yesterday. The cool part about this whole tournament is that it being so back to back to back, right? 4 broadcasts in a week. We're gonna be seeing it changing because everyone who watched yesterday was like, oh,
can't do
I'm
an
gonna bring
Expo.
Expo deck. So I'm gonna bring my counter to Expo deck. So I can't wait to see how this continues to evolve. Do you think that after I mean, I want Graveyard to come out so bad, and I want that to be in every. I just want to talk about it all the time. But when Graveyard comes out, will we be seeing that a lot? Because we've talked about how it's going to be such a powerful card.
Graveyard is going to be, I don't know if powerful is the word that we use. Likely it's going to be powerful. But what it's for sure going to do is going to change the way the game is played.
Okay.
And that I can guarantee you. Now, whether or not Graveyard itself will be the thing that does a ton of damage, or if it's going to enable different cards to do that damage, well, that's remained to be seen. It could even have really strong defensive implications. There's a lot of things that Graveyard could be used for. And so the definitive statement that I'm going to go with is that I know that it's going to change the game pretty dramatically.
All right. Well, now getting into kind of our today's matchups, our top 8 new from yesterday, right? We don't have we don't have a duplicate person here.
No samers.
Nope. Although there have been, when watching the bracket, there are several players who have repeated top 16 performances, top 32
okay.
performances.
So close.
People who are falling just close, and we may see them again in future weeks. Actually, yesterday's top 8 placer, Woody, made it pretty far into today's tournament, but fell just short of the top 8.
All right. So now, out of our top 8 today, are there any? I know Clyde is a name that
Stands out.
we've heard of quite a bit. If you guys, was he running SMC at all?
Clyde is a big SMC player, and I mean, between him and I, Clyde has been a player who has developed so much since he started playing in the SMCs. Little known fact, before he actually broke out as kind of a top player, he was playing a lot of the SMCs, but never actually won an event until it came to the championships. He was the last seed.
to win.
Yeah, I guess so.
The last seed. He was number 16 out of the 16 players invited.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he won.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Another name that jumps out to me is, and Ella, you're going to love watching this guy, Darth Jar Jar. Darth Jar Jar
I like him already.
Oh, great name, right? Yeah. No, Darth Jar Jar is a regular. He is a 3 Musketeer expert, one of the innovators of the 3 Musketeer.
love those.
I know, aren't they fun, right? It's like, what's better than 1 Musketeer? A triplet set.
Three of them.
Right? He's really fun to watch. He's also one of the 4 thought leaders of this archetype. He's the first person whenever new cards come out to say, we should use it in 3 Musketeers this way. We should do it like that. He brought 2 3 Musketeer decks to the top 8, which pretty cool. I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Innovative.
Yeah, very, very different.
I like that.
any player who has a favorite card and they stick to it, no matter what. He saw those Expos yesterday, and truthfully, Expo and 3 Musketeers not a great matchup for him. He went, I'll get there.
I'll do it. I'll make it happen.
I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of favorite cards, from him, favorite card?
Royal Giant.
Okay.
Okay.
Ugh.
Ella?
Right now, I'm liking the Witch. Don't hate me for it.
Which is sweet.
Which is good.
She's
amazing.
cool.
Which is a really cool card that's great in the earlier arenas.
Yeah, that's what
You're sitting in Spell Valley, right?
It's
Yeah,
just-
she's gonna
just
crush in Spell
still.
Valley. Which is one of those cards that's one of the most popular early game cards, and will kind of, maybe you'll get a new favorite card in the real arena. I'll be nice. I'll be nice to the Witch. I'll be nice to the Witch.
Yeah,
Hit
which
you with
is
my hair.
great. Probably for me.
Keep it a real 100.
Probably for me, Giant Skeleton. Giant Skeleton is
Giant
probably
Skelly?
my favorite deck. Yeah, my favorite
Okay.
card right now. Rainey, how about you?
Interestingly enough, right now it's 3 Musketeer. Actually, 3
Really?
Musketeer is my favorite card right now.
You've been playing on the ladder, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been using it a lot. I just think that it's so creative the ways that you can play the card. We'll see Darth Jar Jar go through all of that and more.
Yeah.
But yeah, 3
Oh, I'm
Musketeers
so
for sure.
excited.
Now,
Not that I have 3 Musketeer, but
She looks at it in Arena 7 and it's like, I'll get there.
it's gonna be
I'm
so
coming for you. Yeah.
now, since I'm going to keep on the topic of 3 Musketeers, is it better to use them defensively or offensively?
Situationally, it can change. Now,
So-
the big trade-off is that there's a bunch of elixir that you invest into playing it.
Is it
right?
9, right?
elixir.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, unless you mirror it, it is the most expensive card in the game. But for 9 elixir, you're actually buying yourself 3 free elixir because 1 Musketeer costs 4.
Okay.
And if we Sesame Street for a little while, 4 plus 4,
Yeah.
help me here,
Yeah.
plus 4, that's 12 elixir
you
worth.
did
It's more than
it.
6.
But you get 3 Musketeers for the cost of just 9, so buy it now.
What a great sales pitch.
I would if I
Supplies
could.
are limited.
Yeah. Now, I also see people a lot of the time when I play against them, they split them up. They'll put them either back
Right behind the castle.
Yeah.
the king's
Actually,
tower.
I remember when Three Musketeers was first introduced to the game. It was actually the first balance update ever it was put into the game, and everyone hated it. It was actually called the worst card in the game. Really? Because everybody just put them all in one lane. And when you put all Three Musketeers together, they get Fireball, they get Poison, they get Lightning, whatever. It took the brilliant minds of people like Darth Jar Jar to realize that you actually, if you place them right in the middle, 2 will walk down one lane and 1 will walk down the other lane, and suddenly your opponent has to defend both lanes at the same time. And if you ever, I can't defend that one, just locks onto the tower and pop, pop, pop.
Brilliant.
Does 1,000 damage.
Speaking of brilliant, yesterday you guys sent us a bunch of amazing haikus, and we want you to keep on doing that. So send us more to #ClashNAOpen, and we will be reading those again.
Yesterday was
So good.
Craney Torso.
Craney
My boy
Torso.
Craney Torso. hanging out.
I was
giant
really
skeleton.
impressed.
Yeah.
That's super fun. All right, guys, so our first match is going to be Darth Jar Jar versus Trainer Rubens. So is Trainer Rubens someone that you guys have heard of? Is
I've
he
seen him around.
big name?
Actually, now that I think of it, is he related to kind of Trainer Chris and Trainer Nick? Are they all from the same kind of...
That sounds like it.
They're all related in that they have the trainer name, but they actually play, I think, in different clans. They're not super related to each other. Because whenever you play the trainers, the AI people, the inaugural trainers, so people do that
so
themselves,
smart.
of course. Yeah. No, they're not related. The cool thing about Trainer Rubens is that he's bringing a minor deck that we didn't see hardly any of yesterday. Very little minor cycle decks. And I believe his other deck is an Expo deck with 3 spells in it. So that'll be pretty unique because normally you don't see that many spells in any deck, much less an Expo deck.
Okay.
Oh, let's see how he deals with those 3 Musketeers. I'm excited. Who will it be, guys? You let us know at home in the chat.
All right, Darth Jar Jar versus Trainer Rubens, and of course, the featured card will be 3 Musketeers Expo, like we haven't seen enough of it already. Starting out the match, Trainer Rubens is not taking any breaks.
And we mentioned yesterday that Expo was really popular, but one of the natural counters to Expo is just playing a giant in the middle, just something with a ton of hit points that will that can absorb all those shots and get in the way. And I think that was a really good read by Darth Jar Jar early on to just have the giant ready.
Yeah, that was a big thing that was lacking in yesterday's tournament. There were so many Expo decks, but as you mentioned, Rumham, there were no giants, and I don't think there's any reason for that to be the case.
Today is very different. In the top 8 field we have today, there is a giant, a golem, and a royal giant.
Ooh.
Very cool. All right, second Expo of the game. Here comes the giant to tank it up, and ladies and gentlemen, watch the beauty of a giant tanking a crossbow.
And that's exactly what you want to do. Most times people would play their giant behind the king tower, but when you do that, you leave a huge opening for your opponent to just lock onto the tower with the Expo. So by starting it in the middle of his field, he makes sure that the Expo doesn't ever get locked onto the tower. And look at that, the Mega Minion even gets protected along the way.
Oh boy. Yep, they're just both gonna fall in the middle of the field, and that was very, very effective from Darth Jar Jar's side. Question is, I think Darth Jar Jar is trying to build up elixir collectors and wait until double elixir time to push a lot of 3 Musketeers on the field. This is his first one in the game, actually, and it's 1 minute 20.
Absolutely. Oh, well, Lightning comes down and takes 2 3 Musketeers off the field. Lightning is the natural enemy of a 3 Musketeers deck, but Darth Jar's going to try to recover. I agree that he was really smart in the early game to just make sure to get down to double elixir collectors. That's giving him so much more elixir, and you can see it right now. Even though they both have the same amount of elixir on the field, look how many more troops Darth Jar Jar has.
Ooh, and it looks like a Mega Minion is going to slip through. The Giant is still tanking up a few shots, but guards just in time, and this is really showing the... Oh, never mind! They abandoned their duty. It might have been better if the Giant was just tracking the guards for a little longer, and the Mega Minion gets 2 good swipes on the tower.
Darth Jar Jar is one of the few players who actually is going to want to split the damage up in the way that it is, right? It's okay if he has damage on both towers at the same time because he's trying to put Musketeers in both lanes.
Uh-oh, this could be a big push. 2 Musketeers on one side. The Ice Spirit goes in and freezes up the tower while the guards start poking at the 2 Musketeers remaining. But it looks like the Giant is going to make its way through, and this is what we were talking about Elixir advantage. Darth Jar Jar already has another set of 3 Musketeers ready to go.
And if you noticed, when he dropped them, his opponent only had 4 Elixir, so even if he had the Lightning in hand, he couldn't use it.
Oh no, the Inferno Tower is getting really low, and that Giant is really healthy, and it's ambling its way across the map. Mega Minion plus Ice Golem get frozen up in the center of the bridge, right around Trader Ruben's outer field, but it looks like the Giant finally makes it. Mega Minion might get a swipe on its own too, and it does. And this game is getting really close. Now, there's no direct damage in Darth Jar Jar's deck, Rumham.
Yeah, aside from the zap, there's no meaningful way to do damage to the tower. We saw yesterday how many games were decided upon lightnings, rockets, fireballs, those kind of cards. And Darth Jar Jar, that's way too many zaps in order to get there. He's going to have some troop lock onto that tower.
The Mega Minion actually survives on Darth Jar Jar's side, and that might be the key. Double Giant coming in, but it's going to be a question of whether Trainer Rubens can cycle the Inferno Tower. He actually throws an Expo away, and that keys to me desperation move, and I think Darth Jar Jar might be able to take it. Wow. Darth Jar Jar actually built up such a big elixir advantage, just trading well over and over and over again, putting Trainer Rubens into a really bad spot, had to panic, play the crossbow defensively, and still wasn't enough to stop Darth Jar Jar.
Yeah.
So speaking of Elixir, I know the Elixir Collector card changed recently. What's different now, and how will that affect how people play it?
Yeah, the big change, so Elixir Collector, to give you a little history, since the game came out, was the most popular card. It's like one of the most popular cards.
Everyone ran
it costs
Pretty
5,
great.
and within 70 seconds, it would give you 7 Elixir. So just for playing it, you gain more Elixir. The big problem, though, was that it was pretty easy just to get out 2, 3, 4 at a time. So Supercell increased the cost from 5 to 6. You now get 8 Elixir instead of 7, so it's the same advantage, but you become a little more vulnerable when you set it up. Darth Jar Jar, though, did a great job there early on, defending expertly with his Giant and using those opportunities to get not 1 but 2 Elixir Collectors out. And in the critical moments of the game, he simply had more Elixir than his opponent. And if you're at 0, any card's pretty deadly.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of, Rainy, keeping going on the Elixir Collector, like you're saying, now you're more vulnerable right when you place it. So if your opponent places Elixir Collector down, does that tell you, all right, just go right now with everything you got, even if you don't have like the perfect combo?
You really have to identify what cards your opponent has in hand to defend, right? Because sometimes massive amounts of elixir can amount to very little if your opponent plays according to what you drop, because they have the opportunity to play reactively.
Gotcha.
But if you have a fast-paced enough deck, maybe something like a Hog Rider deck, maybe something like some element of a Lumberjack who has really quick run speed, you can actually squeeze a moment of opportunity while they play the Collector. Or if you had already started a big push way behind the King Tower and they decide to play the Collector at that moment, that's when you can really punish them with some 10, 15 elixir pushes.
Now, we also saw the guard, or the Mega Minion attacking the guards just running kind of out of range. The Mega Minion just ditched him and went back to the tower. I see that all the time. Is that just the speed of a unit? If a unit gets too far out of a certain range, it's just like, all right, I'm going to retarget?
Every single time a unit gets stunned or frozen or moves, it retargets. So what happens is the Mega Minion was actually chasing those guards, but at some point it moves a square, looks, the guards are now farther away than the tower, and changes priority. They can get away. We'll let them go this time, and we'll turn around and lock onto the tower. So that's what happens there. Sometimes you'll see situations if there's nothing else around, the unit will just follow it all over the map. Yeah, all over the map. But because there was another good target nearby, the Mega Minion sides,
You were talking about that with the P.E.K.K.A. and is it the Ice Spirit?
Ice Golem.
Ice Golem.
You need 2 slow things. So the Ice Golem and Giant Skeleton does it too. Any slow unit, if you play another slow unit, you can actually drag them not just across your front yard, but back up the other lane. It's so funny. I hope we see it today.
I want to see that too. You guys talked a little bit about direct damage too, and how do you go into a match not, I would be so scared. That's really risky, right?
Darth Jar Jar has immense confidence that he can close these games out. With his units, with his troops, not necessarily relying on spells like those dastardly fellows yesterday.
Darn guys. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, Darth Jar Jar just needs one more game to go into the semifinals. Can he take it, or will Trainer Rubens tie it up?
All right, Kristen, your question may be answered right now. Trainer Rubens started out with a Mega Minion in the back, and Darth Jar Jar started out with the Elixir Collector. We'll see if Trainer Rubens really tries to punish. Actually, he's going to opt to use a Fireball on the Collector, and that's going to deny a little bit of the pumps coming from the Elixir Collector and earn Trainer Rubens a little bit of damage on the tower.
We saw yesterday that players who wanted to play 2 decks of the same archetype had to make some kind of challenging substitutions. Yesterday, Marcel P had Ice Golem in one deck, Knight in the other, and it looks like Darth Jar Jar, his clanmate in Reddit Alpha, is following the same lead, with Ice Golem in his first 3 Musketeer deck and Knight in his second one.
Inferno Tower is the centerpiece of defense for Trainer Rubens, and it looks like Jar Jar is going to run a minor 3 Musketeer deck. What I'm seeing is cheap tank plus 3 Musketeer split push, And Rumpam, can you talk to me a little bit about a split push strategy that is set up in this manner?
Yeah, the idea is that when you play your 3 Musketeers either behind your King Tower or in front and they go down each lane, you're actually not, you don't care which lane you go down. You want them to make a move, and once they commit Elixir to the board, you go the opposite direction of the way they went. Ideally, you could put a cheap tank in front of each side, right? So you've got 2 Musketeers going down one lane, 1 Musketeer down the other. You put a Knight in front of the one of the set, and then the Miner in front of the single one. Didn't quite work out like that yet, but you might look for that in 2 Elixir time.
Bad guess by Darth Jar Jar, loses his Elixir Collector, and a log whiffs. Oh my god, I haven't seen a log whiff ever. Yesterday we saw so many logs just rolling over Skeleton Army. I thought it was a clear shot, but Darth Jar Jar just dropped it on the floor a little early, I suppose.
The Princess is a really challenging card for Darth Jar Jar to play around because he wants to use the Miner to distract the tower and let the Musketeers run free, but he probably should use that Miner as much as possible to get the Princesses off the board. Princesses have such long range that they can shoot the Musketeers that are walking from very, very far away and weaken them before they ever cross the bridge.
Possibly the greatest tragedy of that whole encounter was that Darth Jar Jar, oh, that's a defense. Oh, that's a big response too. Miner plus a spell combo is actually really, really great because almost inevitably your opponent, if you're playing Miner against them, will try to defend their collector with something. And having a spell to follow it up, you can see gain Trainer Rubens so much value.
I wonder if he even needed to cast that Ice Spirit on the last push. Great defense with the Knight there.
Nice.
So the most important thing when you play Elixir Collector is, well, defending those Elixir Collectors. You cannot let Miners just show up with their shovel and knock all the Elixir off, or else what's the point of playing that card? You spend 6, they spend 3, and they take it out.
I think Darth Jar Jar is running out of space here. He needs to make a big play within the next drop because every single time Darth Jar Jar plays 3 Musketeers, he eats a fireball and logs worth of damage onto his tower. And I think Trader Rubens is getting to that point where he can actually just cycle. Smartly, Darth Jar Jar plays the 2 Musketeers on the left because he wants to give Trader Rubens as little excuses as possible to use spells on that right side tower, but it's just a fireball away, and this might get really close. 2 Musketeers does a lot of damage. Ice Spirit gets taken down, no, but the Miner will end up closing it out. And Darth Jar Jar couldn't push the 3 Musketeer kind of split push strategy into great effect in that match.
Yeah. I agree, yeah. The big challenge there for Darth Jar Jar was to get his opponent to play the fireball. I mean, your biggest enemy is the fireballs, the lightnings, those sort of big spells. If you can bait them out by having your opponent shoot him at an Elixir Collector, well, that's a great opportunity, but okay, Musketeers now.
Sure.
I think in situations like that where Darth Jar Jar was really far behind, he can almost consider just dropping all 3 in the same lane and just trying to go for it. The fireball comes out, you know that you're gonna lose in the next 20 seconds if you don't make something happen, so maybe just dumping them all in the same lane and going for the all-in strategy.
Okay, so talking a little bit more about the 3 Musketeers, you talked about how when you drop them, what to do after. But like, when do you decide? Okay, I should put the ladies out there now.
That's a good point.
Put the ladies out.
Yeah, bring the ladies to the party. I would say the best time to play it on defense is when there's something coming in, like a Lava Hound or a Giant, something that you know right away those Musketeers can get a lot of value shooting. But if there's nothing immediately coming in, and actually the board's kind of neutral, and you have full Elixir, and maybe an Elixir Collector down, why not cast them right then, right? You've got nothing else to do. For the most part, Darth Jar Jar's game plan is put down Elixir Collector, cheap card, cheap card, cheap card, cheap card, Elixir Collector, cheap card, cheap card, cheap card, cheap card. Okay, now I'll cast them, right? So if you're at full health or full Elixir, nothing on the board, maybe just put them out there then. See how it goes.
Rainey, did Rubens use the same deck as we saw him in the first game?
Yeah, no, actually, Ruben's first deck was the crossbow deck.
Oh, so he switched it up.
So he did actually switch it up.
So now he has to go back to the crossbow deck.
Yes, I believe that is the case because Darth Jar Jar won the first game. Trainer Rubens came back and won the second one, and so now they are left with their alternate decks. And yes, that was correct.
Yeah.
Your finger math is impeccable.
One of the things I also want to talk about too is it seems that it is really hard to be good with 2 decks because it seems like one player has a very strong skill set. They go into the next one after they win with that one, and it's kind of hard to come back. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, it is all tied up. Darth Jar Jar or Rubens, who will make it to the semifinals? Let's find out right now.
Darth Jar Jar.
No.
Crossbow, I think that'll be tough. It freezes it up for just a bit. There's a cheap tank, and this might be the big benefit of having those 2 cheap tanks really play the Miner. It looks like he's going to try to go for the kill on the crossbow. The Fire Spirits pop up, and actually, that's big connection from Trader Rubens. Plus, Darth Jar Jar has to continuously play. Oh, there it is. Let's go on a magical journey, and the Mega Minion does not make it.
That was probably the worst opening that could possibly happen for Darth Jar Jar. He got an Elixir Collector in his opening hand, he wanted to play it, but as soon as he puts it down, his opponent drops an Expo. Well, now suddenly, the opponent has an Expo plus 4 Elixir to defend it with, and you, Darth Jar Jar, only have 4 Elixir to attack with.
And lightning.
He did the best he could, right? He had the Ice Spirit plus the Knight to help absorb it, but now it's up to Darth Jar Jar to rely on this Elixir advantage and not let another Expo connect.
The big question is Darth Jar Jar gonna commit his 3 Musketeers to one lane knowing that lightning is off the board, or can Trainer Ruben cycle fast enough to get lightning back up? It looks like Darth Jar Jar is gonna opt to put, oh no, he actually missed a fireball. This could be a very tough push for Rubens to defend now. He's gonna place the miner in front. Guards are gonna handle the 2 Musketeers in the back, but that miner is basically having a free ride on that tower. And one of the Musketeers on the left side makes it and gets a few shots himself. Herself.
We mentioned in the last game that, yeah, splitting the damage up actually isn't too bad. You force your opponent to feel obligated to defend both lanes at the same time, and if both towers can get to a situation where they're at 1,500 health or less, then you're in this great situation of late game, overtime, they can't slip at all, they can't let any damage come through on either tower, and you're making so much elixir that you can cast another set of 3 Musketeers while your existing 3 Musketeers are still fighting.
Now it seems like the second crossbow will be set up. Fire Spirits get eaten up by the Knight instead of the Mega Minion this time, and this could be a very different push. Miner to continue tanking up that crossbow. Log plus Ice Spirit is going to try to wipe out any of the defending units, but it looks like the crossbow is going to lock onto the tower anyways. The Mega Minion is still alive, and Trainer Rubens has been doing a great job of keeping that Mega Minion alive. It's a key, it's kind of a linchpin in the deck in many ways. The crossbow will do the damage, but the Mega Minion will ensure that that crossbow survives. 4 health left on that tower, and I think Darth Jar Jar is feeling in a pretty bad spot. Trainer Rubens can opt to spend all his elixir on defense and then just zap away that tower in overtime.
Right, when we mentioned, this is the triple spell deck that we had mentioned in the pre-match commentary, is, yeah, it's tough. The number one thing that you're afraid of as a 3 Musketeer player is big spells like Fireball or Lightning, and it's very rare for a deck to have both. And this has it.
It looks like Darth Jar Jar has about 10 seconds left to do big damage right now, and it looks like the miner's going to connect pretty well. 2 logs making its way across. The tower is down. There's still 2 seconds left, and I don't think Darth Jar Jar will be able to do it. Eliminated in the round of 8, and Trainer Rubens with good setup for defensive play, and the fact that he brought so many spells really shut down 3 Musketeers very effectively. And unfortunately, Darth Jar Jar will drop, but Trainer Rubens moves on to the semifinals.
That's right, Trainer Rubens. Congratulations, our first semifinalist of our Coronation Day 2.
Woo! So, when you are going against an Expo, and like we saw at the beginning, and
the Elixir Collector really hurt him,
yeah,
right?
it's so tricky. Do you just decide, like, I'm just gonna play it safe and not do anything and just wait for them to see if they're gonna play the Expo, or do you?
Yeah, I think that's really insightful, because the big thing that the Expo is waiting for you to do is commit elixir to the board in any way, shape, or form. If you ever put like 5 elixir on the board, that's the time to set up an Expo.
Right.
So Elixir Collector is really bad. We saw the very first game, it went really well for Darth Jar Jar by only casting the Giant in response to the Expo, and otherwise, kind of sitting back. This game and the second game, Darth Jar Jar was much more aggressive with his Elixir Collector, and he was punished badly in the third game for it.
All right, well, our first replay is ready. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happens when you miss a log.
And it really, really hurts. I mean, the Skeleton Army, especially now with the new updates, do so much damage. You can see them just chew up that Knight. Just purely from an Elixir trade perspective, the Knight is 3 and the Skeleton Army is 3 as well. And so the fact that it basically made that Knight useless and earned the Mega Minion time on the tower, perfect.
Yeah, that was basically compounded mistakes there by Darth Jar Jar. He wanted to defend the Elixir Collector, and when he missed with his Knight, he just felt really bad about it. In this one, that we saw another situation where an Elixir Collector goes down, and almost immediately Trainer Rubens throws up an Expo, and bad timing. You only have 4 elixir to defend a 10 elixir push of your opponent, of 6 of which is the Expo.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
tough.
would you say in that matchup, Darth Jar Jar's deck just got really hardly countered by Rubens with all those spells at the end? You know, he only had that. He had to win with that final one, right? You can't switch back to the first one you won with.
Yeah, I think having a tough match for the deck really hurt him. I do think that, to Ellie's point, having the Collector play at the start, and kind of what Rumham was talking about too, was trading that crossbow with the Elixir Collector. That's what really hurt, because it put a lot of tempo on Rubens' side. I think Darth Jar Jar can kind of play it out, make smart decisions with the 3 Musketeers, control where the spells are going in terms of playing Collector and 3 Musketeers in particular ways, and he could have saved a lot of health on his tower. I mean, you noticed, by the end of that game, when we just went into overtime, the moment Darth Jar Jar lost his tower, he had actually done about 1,000 he had lowered the tower down to 1,100 health on Trainer Ruben's side.
Was that in one push?
Not in one push, it was just over time. Darth Jar Jar was slowly working it. If he had not lost that much health to the crossbow in the start, the spells would cycle much slower, and Darth Jar Jar would have much more opportunities preventing Trainer Rubens from throwing spells onto that tower. I think he would have just had a lot more time than we saw in that match, and maybe gone a minute into overtime, a minute and a half into overtime.
Gotcha.
And those precious few moments could have been enough for Darth Jar Jar to win the match.
Looking at Darth Jar Jar's deck or Ruben's deck, which one thrived, the final match we saw, which one thrived in double elixir?
Darth Jar Jar. I mean, Three Musketeers is the double elixir deck because once you're gaining elixir that quickly, you have the ability, I mentioned it a little bit during the match, you play your Three Musketeers, they split. While they are still fighting, while your opponent's going, oh God, what do I do to stop these Three Musketeers? Another set can come down because you just gain the elixir back so quickly.
Gotcha. Now, also, a lot of these guys have legendaries. I don't.
Nope.
I don't have a single. You just got your first legendary recently, though, right?
Yeah, I did. I got once upon a time, when I tried really, really hard, I hit Legendary Arena. And then, many weeks later, the game finally decided, hey, you hit Legendary Arena. Let's give you that value pack.
Yeah.
$9.99 is the amount of bucks I threw into the game.
Yep.
And I got the Lumberjack as my first legendary.
Oh, hey.
But here's a catch. I started playing the game a little bit, and I got the legendary chest in the chest cycle. And then after that, I got an epic chest in my chest cycle.
How do you get this lucky? How do you do this?
I just got a bunch of stuff. So my second legendary was the Ice Wizard, by the way.
Okay,
All right,
well,
yeah.
enough bragging.
Yeah.
Let's see
Yeah.
our next match, Lozano versus Eric.
Ooh.
What are you guys
excited.
thinking?
Lozano versus Eric is going to be interesting because I think this continues a storyline of the Clash Royale North American Open of finding the best players, right? There were some big names that came into this tournament that got eliminated earlier on. Some of them Super Magical Cup regulars, some of them just big in the community in terms of playing competitively. And Lozano and Eric have arrived to this point before really ahead of all of them, right? And so I'm really interested to see what these guys bring to the table in terms of decks and play styles as well.
Oh, angry.
Another story is that Eric is a member of the top tournament guild Takeover. Yes, and yesterday's
right,
event
yeah.
we had 3 members of Reddit Alpha in the top 8. Today we have 3 members of Takeover in the top 8.
That's right.
See if he can make his clan proud as the first Takeover member to be fighting today.
Lozano identifies an opportunity to try to go for a hog counterattack while two big bodies make their way across the right side. Mini P.E.K.K.A is a very key card in stopping all of this damage coming down onto Lozano's tower, but still the Giant got a lot of swings. Relatively even trade. When you consider 4 elixir for the Hog Rider and 5 elixir for the Giant, take a look at the damage it's done to the tower, and it's about
I think
nearly there.
Lozano came out ahead there. I mean, that was a lone Hog Rider that did more damage than a giant bowler Mega Minion push, which is a testament to Lozano's defense. What we're looking for here is when, kind of like the Expo, Hog Rider's a lot like Expo in the sense that once Eric commits a lot of elixir to the board, that's the best time to throw down that Hog Rider. And there it is. 10 elixir coming down the right lane, great time to send the Hog Rider down the left.
That's a big log, and he's going to combo that with the Ice Spirit to stop the Hog Rider from getting too many swings off. Meanwhile, Lozano has to make sure he defends that right side tower properly. The bowler is actually going to cleave the tower. That rock is doing so much damage. Oh, it actually misses the second swing, but now there's not much elixir left on the board. The tower takes down the Mega Minion of Eric, and Lozano defends again, still maintaining about the same health differential.
A key thing on those defenses that Lozano's doing, bowler rolls a rock. The rock goes through every single unit that it hits, but it only shoots in a single direction. He's playing Ice Golem right by the bowler to the side to force the bowler to turn away from the tower and roll the rock at angles.
That was brutal. The bowler is actually pretty good at stopping the Hog Rider from getting a lot of damage, but because of the angle it came at, the Hog Rider still got 3 swings, and there's a big lightning. Giant Lightning is one of the decks we thought we would see a lot in the last Coronation, and now we see that being played in Eric's hands. But the question is, this Hog Rider deck is continually putting pressure on Eric, and can he keep up? There's 38 seconds left for Eric to make that cross kill on the right side tower. I think if Eric can do it, he might be in a very good spot, but Lozano can commit all elixir to defense at this point. Oh, and that's actually pretty.
There's no way for Lozano to defend that tower because a log from Eric is going to come down and knock it down in the last few seconds of the game. So it's really on Lozano to start putting up aggressive attacks now, force the opponent to spend a lot of elixir defending, and even if he takes the tower, you'll have a lead going into overtime.
As a fairly avid Hog Rider player, I do not like the way this game is looking right now, Rumham. I think tower down is tough for Hog Riders.
You're right. So once a single crown tower goes down, the king tower activates. The king tower will start shooting as well. Hog Riders really thrive when only one tower shoots them at a time, but they're not very good in situations where both towers are attacking.
I mean, take a look at that. The Hog Rider was distracted by one elixir, the Ice Spirit, and it got a swing, maybe 0 swings. I couldn't really tell, but negligible damage for one elixir trade. Absolutely terrifying to have to play a Hog Rider into 2 towers. I really think Lozano is going to need to look for a big way to invest Elixir behind the King Tower and then leverage that into a bigger push than what he's been doing all game long.
I could also see the idea of maybe playing a Hog Rider behind your King Tower, playing a bunch of cheap cycle cards, and then playing a second Hog Rider when it actually reaches the river.
There needs to be something that happens in terms of Lozano investing more Elixir in his pushes, because those lone Hog Riders in the middle of the map are not going to cut it. A lot of damage committed to defense here.
You see the angry emotes. There's definitely some strong emotions being evoked on Lozano's side. I think he can feel this game slipping away from him. We have 2 more minutes of overtime, but with the double elixir and the Hogs not doing so well, eventually those giant bowlers are just going to reach.
The Hog Rider actually gets 1 swing, but that's 1 swing out of how many Hog Riders he deployed? Maybe 4 of them? 3 of them? Really, really tough for Lozano getting in damage right now. And I almost think that there's an argument to be made, hey, if you can, try to play for a draw almost, I think, in Lozano's situation.
It's really unfortunate for Lozano's princesses because there's both arrows and log in the deck. There's like no way for that princess to actually sit on the board for a while and take multiple shots throughout the game.
Oh man, Eric's Hog Rider defense is really on point. Bowler plus Skeletons actually body blocked the Hog for long enough that it did not get a single swing off on that tower, and now Eric is going to be able to use the Bowler on a counter push.
Well, those Giants just keep coming down the left side lane. Ice Golem, not a great defense. You can tell Lozano's just struggling to get back to his Mini Peck and his Mega Minion. Those are the 2 highest damage troops in this game.
Wow.
But when you play them both at the same time like that, you really become vulnerable to lightning. And I think it's not too much further for Eric to win either from spells or giant punches.
Bowler is such a great card to stop Hog Rider because positioning and timing is all key. The Bowler messes with both of them, pushes the Hog Rider away and messes up the timing of its swings. And I really feel like Lozano has a ton of trouble, especially because the Bowler will also kill the Ice Spirit that assists the Hog Rider, and it's really been hurting Lozano's pushes.
I think the tower now is getting low enough that if it's surrounded by units, the lightning may not hit it. You may have to use logs and arrows to actually finish it off because lightning only attacks the 3 highest health targets within its range.
Lozano continuing to be frustrated, and I think you're right.
This might go to a draw.
This, I think if Lozano gets 1 punch
Lightning
with
right
that giant, yeah, a lightning, 1 punch, anything, spells.
Still saving up elixir. Oh, you're
We'll
right,
see.
there's only 8 seconds left.
Yeah.
You get
champion.
lightning
No, he's
arrows.
gonna lightning log. No,
Arrows?
he can't. He's got arrows in.
Log?
The arrows isn't enough. He's got a log now, too.
No.
He's got a log. He's not going to reach.
Wow.
Oh,
Right down to the moment.
wow.
Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen.
The first draw of the Clash Royale North American
Look at
Open.
this. Look at this. This is just, I don't know what this emotion is. Hey,
That's the
There's
facepalm, buddy.
no
Okay.
emote for this.
okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Rainy? Well, Rainy's
I
not
have
going to
an
be
emote for
joining
that.
us for a little bit, folks. He's going to take a quick break. He's just going to go into hiding. We'll talk to him later.
Breathe.
Talk to him later.
Here's
Breathe,
my
Rainey.
emote for that. If I'm Lozano, I'm sitting on the other side of my iPad going.
Seriously though,
Absolutely.
that was crazy. So the bowler knockback versus the log knockback. What is the difference there? When do you decide what to play? I don't have either. So
That's good. That's a good point. So both cards knock back, and they knock back the same distance. When you get hit, you get pushed back. I think it's 2 squares, 2 tiles.
Yeah.
The key though is that bowler knocks back any small or medium-sized units. That's your goblins, your Valkyries, your Hog Riders, mini P.E.K.K.A.s, those sort of things. It doesn't knock back big troops. Big troops are giants, other bowlers, princes upon their horse, right? Those are all big troops and don't get knocked back. The log, though, is legendary, and the log hunts at night. The log knocks back any troop in the game, including giants, including golems. Anything on the ground doesn't hit the air, but anything on the ground gets pushed back by the log. So I think what the key there is that you want to use bowler for the Hog Rider because it's medium sized, but anytime something really big or tough comes down, use the log. In that case, log was being used to kill Princess.
Yeah.
A
One
lot.
thing
But
also.
I love Princess.
Yeah. One thing I also don't quite get is like if you look at the log's origin story, he says, obviously the lumberjack, he spilled his rage and he's gonna go get revenge. But I mean, like, Lumberjack kind of created him. I understand, he's mad, but
I think
he's
we all
born
know the
now.
story of Dr. Frankenstein.
Okay.
And I
the
think this is a
log.
very similar situation. He was
Yeah.
chopping, and finally the
Too
log
much.
chopped back.
That's right. That's right. Well,
my
ladies and gentlemen, Lozano and Eric, that was a draw. So no one won with either of their decks. So we're going to be going into the next game. It's still 0-0. So looking, though, right now, would you switch up your decks if you were them?
If I'm Lozano, I might. I don't want to be throwing hog riders
Yeah,
into
that was
bowlers all
close.
day.
Yeah,
That was ugly, yeah.
That was too close.
He's going to have to face the facts eventually, but if you can... Yeah,
won.
it's tough.
Let the
What
bowler
would he
deck
have
win.
done?
Let
Yeah.
the Wookiee win, buddy. Let the bowler deck win,
And
because then
then-
it's out. You don't have to deal with it
Right,
anymore.
right. That's a pretty smart
Okay.
one. All right, well, let's go ahead and take a look at it now. Who's going to get the first point going to semifinals? Will it be Lozano? Will it be Eric? Which decks did they bring?
Right.
Lozano bringing his bowler deck, and normally I would make fun of this level 3 bowler, but yesterday we saw what level 3 epics can do.
Is
Lozano's
Lozano
so
the
mad.
chosen one?
Judgment here.
He could be the chosen one.
But we'll see, just like yesterday, the level 4 bowler's feeling pretty good about winning this matchup. Oh, the Ice Spirit slipped right by.
I think it's very uncommon that you see that happen when the bowler is down the lane. But what's going to be interesting is how do these two cards or these two pushes exchange? Now, Lozano has Giant Musketeer on the left. Meanwhile, Eric has Giant Bowler on the right. Now, Musketeer might be a less elixir card, but it does a lot of damage per second. The big thing is that Eric's Bowler and Giant are much more survivable, and you can see both of them stay alive for much longer, giving them more output, more damage overall.
They're going for it now.
I don't know why Lozano's mad about that. He took a tower for less elixir and faster.
Yes.
If that were to happen again in overtime, he'd be thrilled. But yeah, this is a tough matchup because generally decks of a given type really struggle with beating themselves. Like there's not a lot of decks that are good at their own mirror matches. And here you have two giant bowler decks. I don't really know what these, like looking at their deck list, there's nothing that really jumps out to me as like, oh man, that card's really good in the giant bowler matchup, aside from the Mega Minion that they're both playing anyways.
Ooh, that Musketeer actually barely avoids the rock coming across, and that's actually going to be pretty important. Eric decides to spend Lightning to remove it from the board, but that's 6 elixir down that I think Lozano is going to feel pretty comfortable using for defense. I think Lozano is he should be pretty happy with that push.
One of the key things to remember about Bowler is that even though it knocks back, it doesn't do a ton of damage. So against something like Giant that it doesn't knock back, it's actually not a very effective anti-tank card. And we saw Lozano's Giant just wailing on that tower while the Bowler was trying to hit it, but just didn't, it wasn't significant.
Again, precise positioning by Lozano places the Musketeer just barely out of range of the bowler and did not get the Musketeer hurt by the Skeletons either. That's a big Lightning, going to remove the Mega Minion as well as hurt the bowler a significant amount. A traded Lightning for getting that Giant up to the tower. One big issue that I'm beginning to see now for Eric is that he's been constantly trying to push the 3 crown, and meanwhile, Lozano has been getting little bits of chip damage on that right side tower, and if Eric can't close this out, taking down all that health of the tower, I think that Eric might just throw this game away.
Yeah, it doesn't look very good for Eric right now. That gambit to go for the 3 crown push, or just really to go down the towerless lane, it's really coming back to bite him as he's finding himself about 1,200 damage behind in the race going into overtime.
All right, we're gonna hit overtime now, and really, if you're trying to make an argument for going 3 crown or left side tower, they're about at the same health. And meanwhile, your opponent only has 953 health and chew through on that right side. It might get bad for Eric.
I think that Tombstone's doing a lot of work. If you notice, the bowler's getting distracted by other stuff up the lane, allowing those skeletons to build up onto the Giant. Whoa, really do some work there.
One swing, and that's significant. We're actually in territory where 2 Lightnings will win the game for Lozano, and this is
Now
a
Lightning
bad
will do it.
situation for Eric.
Yep, all he has to do is cycle back to a Lightning before losing his King Tower, and I believe he's going to take this game home. What Eric can do now is if he can drop some units around the tower, maybe those will absorb the Lightning shots, but he doesn't have something like...
Oh no.
Guard. Oh, no.
You're cutting it close, buddy.
He's
Cutting
saving
it
up for the
close.
Lightning to win the game is what he's doing.
Yep.
There it is.
Play it, please.
No, or
no.
not. Doesn't have it?
Do not throw this game. Do not.
Come on, Lozano.
Do you hear us, Lozano?
Do not throw this game.
Come on, Eric, you got him.
He's just trying to get back to 6. There.
It got locked.
Pretty sure it's a level 3 lightning. Oh my god, that was way too close for call.
Oh, it's a level 3 lightning. Oh my god, you're right. Because we're wondering. Lozano knows his deck better than we do. We're wondering, like, well, lightning the thing.
Why'd you doing it?
He knew. 8 health. 8 health.
Look, Ender yesterday
Wow.
setting the standard for bringing lower cards to us. Hey, you have
worked.
lower cards, you can play.
Yeah, it's a strategy.
It's a strategy.
But it's a skill game. I
Yeah.
mean, even though we're playing at the tournament cap, people on the ladder, of course, have tournament cap cards all over the place.
Yeah.
People with tournament cap cards range anywhere from like 1,200 trophies, from 1,500 trophies, all the way up to 4,000 plus trophies.
Yeah.
So skill plays a huge impact in a game of Clash Royale. And even though his epics are 1 level lower,
He still got it.
Well, what was it that won it for him? Was it something in the deck, or was it his smarts?
there was definitely a few situations where Lozano had expert placement of, I'll give you one example. He's got a Mega Minion down. Opponent plays a Mega Minion, but because that Mega Minion takes 1 second to cool up, the other Mega Minion gets to attack once, get attack first. And so even though they're going wah, 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 Lozano's would
Go
survive and then troll around the board, chopping up giants and bowlers that can't shoot it out of the sky. The only card that really jumped out to me, the difference between the two decks that was really important though, was Tombstone in Lozano's deck.
Okay.
If you play a giant Ellie and it's coming down the lane at me, yeah, that's great giant impression. You're redheaded just like him too, so this is perfect, right? You play the Tombstone. If they don't have a way to get rid of those skeletons, they're just going to build up on the front of the giant. Giant ignores them, taking damage, more damage, even more damage, even more damage. And then when he gets up to the Tombstone, starts fighting that thing, which releases even more skeletons. And eventually you've got a free skeleton army just beating on your giant. No good. We saw
know
that happen
those
a
are
bunch of
bad
times.
news.
We know those skeleton armies are no good.
Rainey, if we were to take all the damage that Eric did to Lozano's King Tower and put it onto the Crown Tower, would he have won that game?
Yes.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Yes.
It only had 600
Just
health left.
purely numerically, yes.
Okay.
But I also think effectively and executionally, you are safer pushing on that left side tower in some ways, because you can drop the giant in the middle, have your supporting troops come across on your safe side. Okay, it's really hard to explain this.
No, this is
Do you need
good.
a Venn diagram?
I wish I had
Wait,
more.
hold on. Wait. We can draw. Here, you can draw right now.
Okay.
Oh.
You guys handle the game. I'm gonna spend my time.
Yeah, you
do.
doing
Okay,
a little
great.
bit of
You
art.
do
I'll
that.
cover you, Rainey. Rainey's definitely a better artist than I am. So Lozano and
Now
Eric start off.
Lozano's up 1-0. Lozano's got to go back to that hog deck. Let's see how he does it.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a little worried about it now because, that bowler deck never actually got off the field. So he's got to win somehow one game with the Hog Rider deck against this bowler deck in order to advance into the semifinals. It's going to be really tough. The best thing that Lozano can do is bait out that bowler into another lane. Somehow get that bowler on the board and then immediately play a Hog Rider on the other side.
Lozano seems like a really angry guy.
So angry.
He's emotional. He's an emotive
He's
guy.
an emotive guy.
Hey, what's the point of playing games if you can't get worked up about them? That's my thought.
That's a great philosophy.
Can't get mad about work. Can't get mad about school.
Why get mad?
You just got to do them.
It's
you
only
can get
game.
mad about games. That seems all right.
It's only game.
There you go.
Maybe he's just red-faced like normal, and that's him smiling.
Oh, yeah.
You can never rule that out.
That's true.
But again, another bowler comes down the lane. The nice thing for Lozano is that bowler's not a great offensive card unless it has a tank in front of it. It costs a lot of elixir. It doesn't have that many hit points for the cost. So something like Mega Minion or Musketeer, or even just a distractor like Ice Golem can be enough for the tower to shoot it down without it really doing significant damage.
Now here's the thing too. Eric, I think, is doing a really smart thing. He's bringing that bowler deck again because he drew at least with Lozano against the hog. So how do you think Lozano's now going to switch up his strategy going against the same deck? Do you think are we seeing anything different so far? Or is he doing anything?
It definitely helps that he knows right away that it's a bowler deck, right? So he can react a little bit there, but. Kind of like we saw with Darth Jar Jar in the Three Musketeers versus Lightning, there's not a lot you can do against Lightning as a Three Musketeers deck. There's only so many ways to play around it. And in the same way, if Eric just never commits the bowler to the board unless there's something worth bowling over, then it's hard to get it out of his hand. He's going to drop things like Mega Minion, he's going to drop things like Ice Spirit, Skeletons, Log, and use all those for defense. And that bowler's only coming out when the Hog Rider starts coming down the lane.
All right, guys, I think I did it.
Yeah, you got it.
I think I did it.
Wow. All right, we'll say this for
We'll save this for later.
This is what we were talking about. He was able to get the bowler came down on Eric's side, and that gave Lozano an opportunity. Now maybe Eric is okay with this because this just splits the damage up. Look at that, 2006 on both.
Good year.
Great year. New radicals all over the
Super
radio.
good year.
Absolutely.
Oh
yeah.
God.
Here comes. So once again, though, he's going to try to do another set of hog riding, and it's just no hog riding on the grass, is what Bowler says.
This is the element of double deck where you really just have to make sure that your decks are solid all the way around, because eventually you must face your fears. Mini P.E.K.K.A. gets held up by the skeletons. Strangely enough, it doesn't take any damage for the skeletons, and good placement on the ice skeletons to stop that Bowler from getting damage on the tower. Bowler was actually just played on the left side. There's only 1 second left and the log's coming through.
There it is.
There it is.
Eric tying it up 1-1 against Lozano. So now, Eric has run that deck 3 times in a row. Finally worked for him.
Yeah.
He's got to switch it up. It'll be interesting to see what he runs next. But Lozano gets to keep that hog because, again, double deck, you have to win with both of your decks to move on. Both these guys 1 step away from the semifinals.
Can I ask, where was the Bowler yesterday?
Yeah,
we
didn't see him
did
at
not
all.
see it at all.
I
now
bet
it's so popular.
You're right. So prior to the last round of balance changes, Giant Bowler was one of the most popular decks, if not the most popular deck in the format, along with Poison. And I think yesterday, so many people were afraid of playing Giant Poison, afraid of playing Bowler, that they...
It's like, oh, it's known.
Yeah, everyone just thought that they were going to be the only person playing Expo
Wrong.
decks. And
Wrong.
you're right. So the Bowler is great against Expo for a couple reasons. It has a good amount of hit points.
Okay.
It fights at range. And because its rock goes all the way through, it doesn't matter what's in front of it. When the Expo player does something like, skeleton army in front of my Expo, the Bowler's just like, whee! Okay, right? Rolls the rock right over all of the skeletons, and it'll still hit the Expo behind it. So think how many times yesterday we saw those strangleholds between each other where they're playing Ice Golem and Guards and Skeleton Army, and everything's just fighting in the middle while the Expo just plunks away.
Yeah.
Bowler doesn't care about any of that.
He's super good.
And I think that's why you're going to see a lot of it today.
Is Bowler the new Expo?
Now, actually, but there are 3 Giant Bowler decks. I think yesterday there was probably a whole bunch of people sitting at home watching all these Expo decks and going,
I could beat them.
I know how to beat those decks, right? And they're showing up today. We've got a lot of Giant Bowlers.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right, we got to make sure we get
Is
this.
it art time?
Because this is, you're the next Picasso.
Is it art
This
time
looks
with
like,
Ray?
this looks so
I can't
abstract and
wait.
beautiful.
I
All right, so I'm going to hold it up, you explain.
Let's have a lesson on extended drop zone. Now, the reason why...
This is great.
The reason why... Okay, I even got the colors correct. Notice
Yeah,
the bridge,
very good.
the water is blue, the bridge is brown, and we've got the blue side and the red side. So
Good
when you
job.
take down the tower, actually, what I mean by extended drop zone is you get an extra area where you can place units down.
Great.
That's great for you because you can change up your line of play later into the push. Your opponent needs to defend earlier, and you can change up the way that the units interact with each other by dropping units into this particular area.
Especially right in the middle, right?
And so this arrow is where Eric would typically push down, right?
Okay.
You can see that he gets all the way halfway into his opponent's zone, and he still has control of how his push plays out. So you're safer. Problem being is this tower here has much more health than this tower here. So you want to essentially attack this tower on the left side. What you do is if you place a giant in the center position, it will actually move towards this left side tower
immediately?
before it goes to the king tower. And units on this side, if they try to play anything to defend against this giant here, these units will contribute to this push and follow the giant all the way to the left side tower, giving you a very, very safe... I just made brown all over that picture. That's
great. That was some quality John Madden level telescoping. I really loved it.
And we're going around. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, our next game, unless this is a draw, one of these two are going on to the semifinals. Will it be Lozano? Will it be Eric? Let's find out.
I have a
Spectators are
confession.
piling in too. If you look in the top right-hand corner, spectators are coming in because they're excited to see this game.
My parents were worried for me, actually, when I was a kid because I could not color within the lines in kindergarten.
Well,
Really?
you just proved them wrong.
I think you were just a rule breaker.
I just think you're an
The
artist.
lines did not control
You're
me.
just an artist, Rainey.
I got kicked out of kindergarten for spitting in the principal's face. It's a 100% true story.
Oh,
And now I do video games
And
professionally.
now I'm in video games.
Take that.
And we wondered what
education
went wrong.
system.
Right. Rebellion. Montessori schools, you can't keep me down. Aw. So let's see. Now here's the big advantage for Eric. Eric knows right off the bat this is a Hog Rider deck, and it looks like a pretty unfortunate matchup for Lozano because he's got an Inferno Tower, a great defensive building against Hog Riders.
Actually, the positioning for Lozano was interesting because the Mega Minion soaked up the initial damage of the Inferno Tower, got good swings on it. The Hog Rider actually, despite the fact that the Inferno Tower was played in response to it, still got a swing off. In terms of a 4 to 5, 5 for the Inferno Tower, 4 for the Hog Rider, that's actually a big win for Lozano.
Right. Ooh, great Ice Golem played in front to soak a lot of those the Expo shots, and that lets the Mini P.E.K.K.A. swing one big time on that Expo. Mini P.E.K.K.A. does so much damage with every swing that even just hitting the Expo once chops off a significant amount of the damage it could do to your tower.
A little bit of damage taken by the Expo, and Lozano actually gets pushed back into kind of the losing territory of this match in terms of tower health. Not the biggest indicator of whether you're ahead or behind, but interesting to take note.
Eric has a slight elixir advantage too, so he's a little bit ahead in damage, a little bit ahead in elixir, but of course things can change every single push. Like you said though, right there, I think I would just not follow this up at all. That's good for Lozano. You spent 4, your opponent spent 5. That's all right.
Absolutely. And what you need to look to do is not get dunked by this crossbow. Ice Golem instead. He has a level 6 Ice Golem, Rumham.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice they had another fun.
Go, Lozano, go.
But that just shows, you know, how skillful a lot of these players are. They're not letting that hold them back.
How fast is a cycle?
Great.
Too fast for Eric, and the Hog Rider makes a big connection. Hog Rider, Ice Spirit, that's probably my favorite 5 elixir.
Yeah, Hog Rider Ice Spirit is a really cool combo because the Ice Spirit trails behind, and if your opponent plays any single unit, something like a Mini P.E.K.K.A. or a Mega Minion, the Ice Spirit jumps on it, letting the Hog Rider ride right past, deal a lot of damage to the tower.
It's kind of like the California super healthy version of Hog Freeze.
Lean and mean.
Exactly.
Ooh,
Oh, get a swing.
Actually, those 2 swings were really critical. That Expo is already significantly less deadly than all the other Expos we might be seeing because it took half of its health before it ever fired a shot.
Ninja Mini P.E.K.K.A. took it down in one fell swoop. Good defense on that Expo.
The challenge for Lozano is, even though it's like cool enough that your opponent, you know, will play an expensive Inferno Tower, you have to actually kill the Inferno Tower after, because if you let it sit there for too long, your opponent does get to cycle back. It's possible he has another Inferno Tower ready to go.
There it is. He's got the Ice Spirit to assist the Hog Rider in this push, but the Mega Minion on top will make sure that the Hog Rider doesn't get enough damage onto it. Question is, during this time that the Inferno Tower is burning out, can another Hog Rider be played right as it leaves?
There's already been at least 2, 3, 4 cards. He should have Hog Rider back in hand now. Yep, there it is.
And I think the cycle for Eric as well is pretty solid, but the Hog actually jumps onto the Expo rather than the tower, and I think that was very intentional by Lozano because he knew he was running out of options to defend the Expo.
Wow.
It's coming down to the wire now.
And that shows how deadly Expo is. I mean, even with most of its health gone, it did, what, 500 damage to that tower? It's significant.
Ice Golem traded with Ice Golem. Inferno Tower to be played.
Yeah, the goal there is to have the Ice Golem be the target of the Inferno Tower, which allows the Hog Rider to ride a little further ahead with full health, but the Ice Spirit of Eric's froze the Hog Rider in place, letting the Inferno Tower finish it off.
Inferno Tower is actually really low health though, and I think another Hog Rider to be played might actually do really, really well. Ice Golem is actually tanking up for said Hog Rider. No, there's another Inferno Tower. The cycle continues, Rumham, and I think this is looking really, really sticky for Lozano.
Double Princess.
Interestingly enough, actually, Eric has been committing all his logs to the left side to get chip damage, and he hasn't been clearing the princesses off the board.
Ooh, that was quite the Hog Rider jump. That was some fromage. Right, that's a dancing hog.
The dancing hog. Dancing hog.
Dressage, just the word. Dressage.
I had no idea what you were going for there.
There's like fromage and
Fireball.
cheese.
Nod my head and yes, I know what you're talking about.
Whatever, Rumham.
Well, there we
that
go.
was really tough there.
Eric moving on to our semifinals. Congratulations to him.
Congrats.
Lozano getting close, but not quite there.
So Lozano had Mini P.E.K.K.A. in his deck. How do you play the miniature P.E.K.K.A.? How do you play that in a
Don't insult the guy.
in a smart way? Because it's always been tricky for me. He just seems to kind of die.
Mini P.E.K.K.A. is it seems like he'd be a really good offensive card because he does a lot of damage. It's fun to watch him go hurrah on a tower.
And he sounds great.
Yeah, he sounds great. And it's the little hop, it's so cute. But it's actually more of a defensive card than anything.
Okay.
It's the best card you could play against an incoming giant, an incoming Hog Rider, for example. Anything that has a lot of hit points and doesn't fight back, Mini P.E.K.K.A. loves to beat up on those things, right? So Mini P.E.K.K.A., for example, kills a hog in 2 chops. So 1 chop, 2 chop, Hog Rider's dead. Christian, because he's a Hog Rider player, spent 4. I spent 4 on my Mini P.E.K.K.A. Your hog's dead.
Yours
My
lives.
Mini P.E.K.K.A. is full alive, and it's
Yeah.
going to run back across the river, and you're going to have to spend some elixir to stop it from chopping your tower.
That was my plan.
Okay.
All right, let's take a look at our first replay here of these past games where we've got the Giant and we've got the Lightning.
This is why you play Giant with Lightning. There.
Done. Replay. Done.
I mean, look at it. The Jet is actually just,
so good.
as Rumham likes to tell us, fireball, fireball.
Yeah, every punch is a fireball. That's pretty wild. Yeah, lightning is really key in those sort of situations because you're expecting an opponent to play 2 sturdy units, at least 2 sturdy units. So they've got Mini P.E.K.K.A. for 4, Mega Minion for 3. You're like, that's 7 elixir worth of units. That's worth doink doink lightning off right off the board.
Yeah.
That Expo.
So now, yeah, that was the other thing that was super surprising to me is that Expo had no health, it looked like, at the end, and he still just did hundreds of damage to the tower. Running a Hog versus an Expo, does the Hog beat, if you just those 2 units, does the Hog beat the Expo right
Yes.
out? Okay,
Absolutely.
so if you're an Expo player and you see your opponent draw, what was it that Eric did so well to be able to counteract a card that directly counters his Expo?
Well, Lozano only called Eric's bluff once, right? He only played the Hog Rider against the Expo 1 time. The big thing is that a lot of people get into this mindset where the Hog Rider needs to get to the tower and do damage to the tower. But you can also employ Hog Riders in many different ways. Many people like to play Inferno Tower against the Hog Rider. A strategy is play the Hog Rider, make them play the Inferno, and then play something that the Inferno would have killed otherwise, right? When the Inferno is now lower health. Similar to Expo, they play Expo, you play your Hog Rider to take down their Expo. It's a 4 for 6. Do it. Do it.
It's an
They're
already
going to defend the
beneficial.
Expo.
Yeah.
They're going to defend the Expo, so you're going to need to deal with the cards that he drops to defend it. But purely from Hog versus Expo, you're gaining 2 elixir on that trade.
I think in that situation, honestly, that's what Lozano should have been doing.
Yeah.
You know that with the bowler, it's not going to work, so you're better off just Hog Rider into the Expo, drop the log right after to kill those guards or whatever he's going to put in front. Might have turned out better, but of course, coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? We can always speculate.
If I would
after
have
what
gone
would
back and
happen.
done this, and then he would have done this, and then I would have won. Either way, again, I just want to remind everyone here, making it to the top 8 is a huge achievement for these guys. So just because you're seeing them kind of, oh, he lost, he went, no, like, he gone through 40,000 of you
So
guys to get here. So
smart.
congratulations to Lozano that far. But our next game.
Next game, let's see.
I am stoked.
Clyde versus Heels.
Here it is.
This is
Lava Pool.
a clash of giants of the Super Mario Kart.
No, this
Heels,
is Clash Royale.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
Oh, we did
Christian
it.
doesn't even have kids, but he's a master of dad jokes.
Hey-o.
You're right. Clyde, though, multiple-time winner of Super Magical Cup events, one of the most innovative deck builders. Actually, Heels, his opponent, has finished second at a Super Magical Cup tournament before, but more importantly, both of them are clanmates.
Oh,
This is
boy.
another grudge match.
Yeah. Clyde is kind of the father of giant poison, right?
I think that's fair to say.
And particularly poison before it was nerfed, Clyde really was the one who brought it to attention, telling people, hey, you guys should probably play this card.
His nickname initially was the Prince of Poison because he won the Season 1 championships with a Lava Hound poison deck and a Giant poison deck. And it was very odd at the time to see people play poison in both of their decks.
Now, Clyde is playing a very, very interesting card. He's playing Golem. I really like this because it's the return of Clyde, the big body player, and I think that's when Clyde thrives the most.
Yeah, the Tombstone in the middle is a really good defensive structure that you put out there because you want to play the Golem. But when you play Golem, you're going to go down to only 2 elixir, maybe less. And he doesn't want an Expo to come down and ruin his day. So the Tombstone on the board prevents the Expo from coming down, which is why Heels had to fireball it.
Oh, the Inferno Tower locks onto the Golem. Is there a zap in hand? And it actually does get zapped out, and the Golem will survive. Take a look at how tanky this Golem is. Mega Minion comes down and it's still alive, but surprise! Takes down the Mega Minion. There's a change, and the Golemites actually make it to the tower, and they're going to do a pretty good amount of damage to that.
Yeah, not too bad. And when they blow up, you should take those little skeletons out too when the second one blows up. Point. But you're
So-
right. Wow, look at the skeleton army on the counterattack.
Golems didn't normally take down air units. The fact that it killed off that Mega Minion actually changed the dynamic of that push by quite a bit.
It's a good point. You're right. That was a very underrated change from the last set of balance updates. Poor Ice Wizard here wasn't in range of the tower. If he was in range of the tower when he got frozen, the tower could have chopped him up. And you see how effective the Tombstone is. We mentioned it yesterday, how good Tombstone is, good Tombstone is against Expo. The Expo just kept shooting skeleton after skeleton and couldn't really get a good shot on.
That's a thing. Golem, I feel like they're just one-upping each other. Hey, you play Giant Lightning, I'm going to play Golem Lightning.
Go big.
Next, we're going to see Three Musketeer Lightning. We're just getting more and more elixir.
Ooh, the princess barely dies. If the princess could have gotten one more shot off, she would have killed all those skeletons and survived with a sliver of health and stayed just out of tower range in order to keep shooting.
The cycle is really favoring Clyde now. You haven't even finished dealing with the last Golem, and there's another one pushing down your doorsteps, and Clyde already has elixir enough for another Lightning. 271 on that top right tower for Clyde, 299 on the bottom right for Heels, and that's one lightning away. It actually might come to a cycle race.
Yeah, Heels is looking to fireball log for the win. He needs a log now in order to win the game, unless the lightning comes down first.
No! Oh my God!
Heels picking it up.
That last golem, I think, was fatal for Clyde. He didn't need to cast it. I think depending on how you look at it, you're looking at both towers at around 600, 800 health. You have lightning in your deck. At that point, you can just shift to being a lightning deck and don't worry about the golem at all. That very, very last golem he played, I think that was the moment that Clyde lost the game. He lost the game 30, 40 seconds later, but when that golem came down, instead of a lightning or a tombstone or archers or anything, that was it.
I really like those golems. That would be a great haiku, wouldn't it?
Hey,
Right?
hey,
So
that
you
would
guys
be.
should keep sending them to us. Hashtag Clash NA Open. I already gave you a topic, so like just do it.
Any Clash Royale related haiku.
Yeah.
But we'll narrow that.
It could be about Gollum.
We
It could
saw,
be about Gollum.
we
but
saw
any
some
Clash
interesting
Royale.
ones yesterday. Not the non-winners.
No, we're not. No, we didn't pick. Sorry.
So even more about Gollum. That was the first time we've seen little Gollum here, huh?
That's true. Gollum actually, in the early days of Clash Royale, was the most popular big tank in the entire game. It actually got balanced down a little bit where they reduced its stats because it was so good and so popular.
So tanky.
But in the last couple months, Giant, your redheaded brother, has been a lot more popular. And only with the most recent set of changes where Giant got tweaked down a little bit and Golem got a little bit of a little nudge up, people are comfortable
Going
enough
back.
to bring back Golem. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, now going into our next game here, Heels is up now 1-0 against Clyde. He now has to use a new deck. Let's see if Clyde is going to bring back his. So looking, though, at Clyde's play style, do you think, again, the Golem play, is that pressure? Is that stress? Is that...
Clyde has ice in his veins. Like, if there's any, like, you know, it's stressful. This is stressful, right?
Sure.
Perfect for the icer.
But he's not worried about it, right? He's got Ice Wizard veins. Whoa!
Oh boy! That's
Royal
something. What is
Giant.
that card? Rubham, what's it called?
That's my favorite, buddy. That is a Royal Giant. And we mentioned yesterday, you know what would have been really good against all those Expos? Royal Giant.
Here it is.
Here comes Heels. Basically,
Prepared.
Yeah, he's prepared for the Expo deck. Too bad Clyde didn't bring one. But here's the cool thing about Royal Giant. Things way better now because a lot of people took Mini P.E.K.K.A. out of their decks. Back when people were playing, every deck had Barbs and Mini P.E.K.K.A., all these melee damage dealers to fight Giants, to fight Royal Giants. But with everyone kind of moving towards these Expo decks and these more defensive-y style decks, people have kind of taken out the Mini P.E.K.K.A. And it's time for Royal Giant to claim what's his.
Lava Hound Miner seems to be the deck of choice for Clyde, and he was not able to push a counterattack anywhere near as effective as the Royal Giant push that Heels initiated in the beginning moments of the game, and that actually might be the fatal wound to Clyde.
Yeah, only less than a minute and a half into the game, and Clyde definitely finds himself significantly behind. The real challenge here is at some point Clyde's gonna have to put 7 Elixir on the board, and that's a really big opening for Heels to drop down a Royal Giant in the other lane.
There it
I'm
is.
surprised he's not doing it right now.
Heels actually opts to try to defend the Lava Hound push rather than try to challenge it with a Royal Giant, and maybe Heels feels confident enough that he will take down that tower eventually, so he's going to try to focus on mitigating damage as much as he can. But I think actually the Mega Minion drop from Heels is a really great choice. Big lightning right when the
Great
pups
lightning,
pop.
and there goes the Lava Hound. Whoa! He's gonna catch up right now, it looks like.
Yeah, I actually
Don't
think that the
doubt him.
timing of the lightning was perfect. Right when the Lava Hound pops, use the lightning to make sure the pups don't get taken down as they're expanding. Took down the Mega Minion, also got rid of any kind of other troops on the board to defend, but Heels is going to answer back strong, plays a Royal Giant Mega Minion combo. Archers is going to be a great card for Clyde to use, takes down the Mega Minion, and this second Royal Giant push, not nearly as effective. A big lightning is going to make sure that Heels can take down that left side tower, however.
Great opening, though, for Clyde to get that Lava Hound on the board. When you know Royal Giant isn't going to come out to punish you, it's a perfect opportunity, right, to put that down. I'm kind of surprised he's going down the other lane, but I assume it's because he feels like he can just lightning the right tower for the win, and now he wants to try to push for a 2-crown victory.
I think Clyde might be looking to do a minor lightning on the left side or on the right side if he needs to do that. He actually just spent his lightning and there's 13 seconds left. Make sure you take down that tower because you know that Heels is looking to spell down that left side. There it is. It's going to use lightning.
The log has to come down to tie it up. We're going into overtime, but there's already a Lava Hound thumping on Heels' tower.
This is actually interesting for Clyde. I think this is the situation that he would have preferred over the previous situation because now he's extended his life in the game. And if you look at tower health, they're actually pretty even. Enough health for Clyde to defend one more Royal Giant push. And guys, remember that lesson I gave you on extended drop zone? Because that could be a big thing. Yeah, that could be a big thing for both Clyde and Heels.
And I really like, I think it actually helps the Lava Hound play. Oh, there go the skeletons. The skeletons are going. They're going as fast as they can.
Skeletons. The lava pups.
Yes!
Oh!
Wow! Clyde picking it up, tying it up 1-1 against Heels. The Lava Hound coming in strong.
I am really shocked by that because I think Royal Giant has a great matchup against Lava Hound. I think that game favored Heels, and he kind of flubbed it on a strategic level. I think what Heels probably should have done there was just kept being aggressive, just continue to be aggressive with the Royal Giant. Every time you see a Lava Hound, put a Royal Giant down, keep pushing, keep fighting. You know your opponent only has 2-3 elixir to defend that Royal Giant with. Don't wait till you're both full up. You can't defend against some of these Lava Hound pushes. I mean, Lava Hound is 7, Mega Minion 3, Tombstone another 3, Lightning's another 6. Who has the elixir on defense to stop a 19 elixir?
Sure.
A 19 elixir push, right? So instead, when Heels sat back and tried to defend, he was getting punished every time. And I don't know.
I was going to ask you more because Royal Giant is your favorite.
My favorite.
Did we get to see his full potential in that game, or how could he have been used to his full royal potential?
Royal Giant is at its best, kind of like Hog Rider, when your opponent has almost no elixir, right? So that's kind of what I was saying right before, was like when the Lava Hound comes down, that's the best time to play Royal Giant. We saw that critical moment early in the game where he drops the Lava Hound and we go, oh, play the Royal Giant, and he didn't do it. And instead he goes, Furnace on defense, Ice, I don't know if Heel sounds like that, but Ice Wizard on the other side.
He'll send us an audio clip so we can.
I mean, Rumham does a very good bowler and mini Pekka impression.
Yeah.
Maybe not people.
Maybe not people.
Clash Royale
I
characters
don't talk to nearly as many people.
People.
But look at the lightnings that kept punishing him, right? So I think that was when you could have seen the best Royal Giant, but the real, true time for Royal Giant would be against an Expo, which Clyde's not running today.
So one of the things too, also, when you were talking about how once you take a tower down, you are now able to place your minions a little bit further. Royal Giant, if you place him on your enemy's side, he takes what? Maybe a step, and all of a sudden starts locking down all the towers?
He can instantly start shooting. Instantly start shooting.
Okay, well, we didn't see Heels do that.
I think it's a tough spot because again, what Rumham mentioned about Tombstone against Giant also applies to Royal Giant. You place the Tombstone in the middle, which Clyde did, which ended up winning the match, by the way. So talk about a card that gets a lot of value. But you play the Royal Giant in the middle, and if you have the Tombstone right there in the middle as well, the Royal Giant will obviously shoot the Tombstone first. Right. Boom. Skeletons in the field, they're just chipping away at the Royal Giant every which way.
Who has more health, Royal Giant or Giant?
Dude, Royal Giant, you're dead.
Giant, yeah. Giant actually has the most hit points for his elixir cost in the entire game.
Hey, fun fact. There you go, fun fact there. All right, so now we're going to be going to a tiebreaker. We've got Clyde, we've got Heels. So far, watching both these players, now we know the decks they're going to be playing. Who are we giving it to?
What's going to happen?
As much as I like the fact that Clyde is playing Golem, I am not convinced about Golem's effectiveness.
Okay. Right, because he has to go back to the Golem deck.
Thinking real hard on that one.
If Heels plays the way that he just played, Clyde's gonna take it. Just because it's the exact same situation. Golem costs 8, Lava Hound costs 7. If you're not gonna play your Royal Giant in response to your opponent playing their big tank, when are you gonna play it effectively? But maybe Heels can learn that lesson. It's really going to be up to Clyde to either get a huge elixir advantage, so he's not that far behind when he drops the Golem, or just wait until right after a Royal Giant attack is resolved and then drop it quickly. That's the most vulnerable you're going to be is when you play the Golem.
So Clyde running the Lava Hound, which I love. I love
not anymore though. It's out.
Yeah,
you win. You sit on the bench.
He was running the Lava Hound, and I love him. How are you going to play against the Lava Hound? Let's say you run into it in the ladder. You're running into it while you're playing in the game. You see someone drop a Lava Hound.
What happens when I see Lava Hound?
Yeah. What's your best go-to?
Play a structure.
Okay. Any structure.
Lava Hound does wet noodles worth of damage.
It does do wet noodles.
About this much is how much a Lava Hound hurts.
How much?
About this much.
Yeah. Didn't feel it. Didn't
feel it.
One whole spear goblin's worth of attack.
Is that it?
Yeah, it's
really?
about the same as a singular spear goblin. Actually, and if you'll believe it, they increased it to that
They're
amount.
like,
It was
"This poor
actually
guy."
lower than that. There was when Lava Hound first came out, you used to just ignore it, like literally ignore it.
But
and
the
it
pups
would
do so much damage.
Well, you don't ignore the pups.
Okay.
Ignore the Lava Hound.
It's a two-step process, right?
So you should change your picture.
I love lava pups.
Love of pups.
Yeah, I like them both. The reason, because I love spawners, right? So I have my spawner decks, and I thought in my head, like, oh, Lava Hound is the closest I can get to a legendary spawner, because, you know, it's like a unit that then turns into a bunch of little units. So that's why I still love it.
Lava Hound is a two-step card. Let's take a moment. Let's take a moment here to learn about the Lava Hound, guys. We're learning about the Lava Hound.
Okay.
Now. Step 1, Clyde had Tombstone and Lava Hound, and he had Miter, right? Here's how it works. You play the Lava Hound, it tanks for the skeletons for the Tombstone, and as we saw in that game, the skeletons just chopped up that tower really great, right? If the Lava Hound is about to die, you play the Miner, then the pups come out. Stage 2, the pups do a lot of damage, and now the Miner is tanking for the pups.
Wow. Okay. So who wrote that down? Did you guys write that down?
You're blowing my mind with all this classroom time.
Great.
Classroom
You need like little theme songs.
We should have a chalkboard. We'll get a chalkboard for you. We can
Yes.
go over
That
like,
would be
it's time to
fantastic.
learn. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for this final battle between Clyde, between Heels. It's all tied up.
Who's gonna be?
Who do you? Yeah, let us know right now in chat. Who do you think it's going to be? Because this could be your time. So you were saying if Heels plays the way he did, Clyde's going to take it. Is that what you said?
Yeah, the key moment to look for if you're watching at home is when the Golem comes down, does the Royal Giant come out right after? If that Royal Giant comes out in response to the Golem, Heels is way ahead.
All right,
real
well,
far ahead.
let's get right into it and take it out.
Heels versus Clyde. How appropriate that the cards are Royal Giant and Lava Hound
Seriously.
for each of their featured cards. Good statistics up there. 3,000 health for the Lava Hound and 45 damage.
Now maybe that's a great time to play Golem because it's possible the Royal Giant's not in his opening hand.
Yeah, that is true.
Little greedy. Actually, one thing that's really interesting about Clyde's deck, it is a Golem deck that doesn't run Elixir Collector. And those two were like peas in the pod for a long time because you needed so much Elixir to put together these huge Golem pushes that you would just naturally play the Elixir Collector.
I have very strong thoughts about Elixir Collector, but neither the time nor the place. The Golem is pushing through. Log will actually shove that huge Golem out of the way. And I think it's just going to get extinguished on that. Oh, it takes down the Furnace. Nice. No Fire Spirits actually popped, and now the Golem eyes get there. 200 damage? How much do you think, Rumham? 300?
It's hard to say. I was all twisted in circles because there was a Mega Minion that was cocked back to swing at that princess at the river, died right before killing it, and that princess shot another 4 or 5 times. Pretty incredible.
That's actually one of the things about princesses. It's actually very difficult to get it to lock onto what you really want to, just because its range is so big. But that is what separates a great princess player from a more average one, is that you can really control where the princess shoots. Big lightning, clears the board. But now Clyde is lacking Elixir to assist the Golem in any meaningful way, really. Archers in the back will take down the Ice Wizard, and that's pretty good.
I don't like that play either because Furnace isn't a good answer to Golem. The Fire Spirits are just going to blow up. I mean, yeah, it's a building, so it pulls the Golem to the center, which in that way, that's a pretty good thing. But those Fire Spirits are kind of just jumping onto such a high hit
Oh,
point.
it's worth it. One Archer lives. One Archer and the Ice Wizard. And, you know, that might sound really anticlimactic, but that's actually a fantastic push from Clyde.
Yeah. I mean, one Archer is half of a Musketeer.
Yeah.
So half of a Musketeer survives, and even though it's a tiny bit of hit points, Christian, how many hit points? Which one matters?
Oh, it's the last one.
It's the last one. So that one health remaining Archer just sits there and just starts plugging away with the damage of, you know, almost a Mega Minion, almost a Musketeer.
A 3 Elixir investment, and really it was the 3 Elixir of the Archer that converted it to the damage that Clyde needed. And look at how much health is left on that tower for heals, just to demonstrate how effective it is playing these small, chumpy troops that people often overlook, I feel.
Yep. Oh, wow. So let's see what's going on. We've got the double Tombstone. By having both Tombstones in the middle,
there's
he's pretty
the
much,
first
there's
Royal
that Royal Giant. Played it a little too late compared to all the other ones, but the idea there, is that if you have those Tombstones out, it's really hard for your opponent to put a push. There's just too many chumpy, crappy troops in every lane.
The interesting thing is Clyde has yet to play a card to defend against that Royal Giant. I think he would have preferred that Ice Wizard to be slowing down the Royal Giant, but this might be a 100-0 situation. Actually, zaps the Royal Giant, targets it over to the Tombstone, and Clyde has to thank the fact that that tower was so healthy, but that was a big push from Heels. The question is, will Heels get pushed into lightning territory? And it looks like he might. Big lightning from Clyde. I think he might have secured the match. The Archer, one more arrow.
One more
no,
the
has to
Golem
fight
the
through
Golem punches for the win.
Golem might coming in for the big. Now, Lava Hound and Golem both have that property of exploding into smaller units, and I think Clyde really took advantage of that fact. Before the match started, I was kind of skeptical about Golem's effectiveness, but it's interesting because both Golem and Archers are cards that are kind of in that similar vein in terms of my belief in them. Clyde made a pretty good argument for those.
Now what? Oh, go ahead. No, do it.
The Archers and the Ice Wizard was a good combo that he had in there at one point. What was his best push during that game? What do you think won it for him?
I mean, Rainey identified it really correctly in the middle of the game. The one where if you have a ranged attacker that usually has a pretty high damage output, survive at all in any way, they can do a lot. We see this often where people will play a Musketeer, Fireball hits the Musketeer lives with a little bit, Giant comes in front. Well, suddenly that low health Musketeer is just pop it away. And your opponent's down 4 elixir because they did spend the elixir on the Fireball, and the Musketeer's still shooting as if nothing happened, right? So in that same situation, the Archers were just surviving here and there with a little bit of hit points left, and they were able to contribute, I mean, hundreds of damage to the tower. It was a very significant amount.
Yeah.
The difference also there between Royal Giant and the Golem is that, like you were saying, great, Tombstone, a really good card against it because once they both lock on, and then once it breaks, a bunch of little guys that are going to be fighting that big guy while he's distracted with another tower. The Golem, if that's the case, and the Golem takes down, there's a bunch of little skeletons. When it explodes, the skeletons are gone.
Yeah, once the Golem actually gets eliminated, it will pop Golemites, and the Golem itself will explode and deal damage in an area around it, similar to the Ice Golem, but more damage and doesn't have the slow effect, but skeletons will definitely be blown away. Even things, I think, up to melee goblins get taken down.
Wow.
Okay,
All right.
well, let's take a look at our first replay. Lava Hound.
Lava Hound is, take a look. Look at those skeletons. Look at how happy they are. This is stage 1 of the Lava Hound, and Clyde didn't even need stage 2 because the skeletons did the job for him. Actually, no, correct that. It does pop. Doesn't even need a tank, though, because the tower health is so low. Skeletons do a ton of damage, and we just saw that there.
This was the end game race there in the deciding game. And you can see with those Golemites, all the other stuff is dead around. The lightning hits it, bringing them really low. And the Golemites have not a lot of damage, but enough just to get that last 300 bit through right as the Royal Giant's bearing down. The arrows even come down to seal the game, but the Golemite finishes the job before they can arrive.
There it is. That is Clyde picking up that second victory, moving on to the semifinals.
Congrats.
He is the third now. He's going to be joined by either next Sugenaris and Goose. So these two players, have you guys know anything about them? Are
Goose? No, I don't know. I really hope he's good because I'm excited to see Goose maybe win a game and I get to go Goose. Yeah.
All right, so these are both kind of, as far as in the tournament scene, to your guys' information, kind of unknowns.
Unknowns. I mean, there's so many people playing Clash Royale, right? People who are unknown to us
Everyone in the world is playing.
Does not mean that they are not great players or they are not established in their communities and their scenes. So the fact that they make it here to Clash Royale North American Open, though, mean that, hey, pay attention because we're here.
Yeah.
If nothing else, both of them are members of clans, right? So there's at least
Somebody
49 people rooting for them
There you go.
inside, wanting their name to go on the map.
Everyone's got family.
Let's check it out. Swedes, I'm sorry.
Sugenaris.
Versus
How about Jen?
We'll call it
Sugenaris.
All right, I think we've decided on Sui Generis.
Yeah, we're calling it.
I'm sticking with Goose.
13.
13, right.
Look at the way the bowler waddles.
I love
heavy
the bowler.
rock.
That's so good.
It's a super heavy rock.
The Goose is also running double Lava Hound decks, so he's another, along with Clyde, a Lava Hound fanatic.
Okay.
These all-air decks in some ways have really good matchups because, well, a lot of your units are in the air, and this giant bowler's not going to be able to stop it. On the other hand, without having a lot of ground units to intercept the giant or the bowler, you get situations like this where that giant bowler push did a whole lot of damage, even if they ended up getting killed.
Tombstone against bowler is very, very bad for the Tombstone. The skeletons wake up in the morning, leave the safe confines of the Tombstone, and immediately get rolled over by the boulder. So actually, that's one of the, oh my God.
Tragic story.
At least they're already
My
dead.
goodness. I think that tower's
didn't
done.
even say they loved them.
It was one swing away from taking that tower down from 100 to 0.
No value.
Generis' deck doesn't have, as we can tell, oh, there's lightning. Okay, psych, never mind. I was gonna say, I don't see a fireball or lightning, so I wonder how he's going to stop Goose from building up multiple elixir collectors. And the answer is, you lightning it off the planet. Another Lava Hound being bared down. If you look, they're actually at a similar amount of elixir, but you can see the effect of that elixir collector and all the other good trades, because even though they're at about the same amount of elixir, there was just a Lava Hound on the board. So that kind of makes Goose, 7 ahead or more. Wow,
Man.
Lava Lightning, no joke.
tough situation for Sui Generis, and the Mega Minion has to now contend with the minions. Extend the drop zone, played the Ice Spear under the Mega Minion, throws it up, and allowed that minion to get enough damage on that Mega Minion that if it ever crosses the bridge, it will not do a single lick of damage.
Ooh, this lava. It's funny because even though Sui Generis has the Mega Minion, it's not finding a lot of good opportunities to use it against the Lava Hound. It's getting caught up on the enemy minions, some of these other distracting troops.
All right, watch the terror right now. Oh! That was satisfying.
Now, I don't think he's going to be able to get that. You know, maybe. He might be able to get that tower low enough to lightning it. He's going to need more than 2 lightnings right now to get there, so he needs some troop to make a push.
Oh
But look at this massive push. Sui Generis is turning into a sous chef, cooking up a pretty gnarly looking push here.
That is a lot of just stuff. Now the Lava Hound's gonna pop, but there's a second Lava Hound to tank.
This is brutal.
And that's the deadliest part about lightning, is that if you commit too much stuff on defense,
Oh my
wow.
God!
yeah, look at this. It's a row. We're going to see the first 3
Pups.
crown.
Oh man, I
it?
don't
No.
think I've ever seen
Oh.
the 3 crown. We did it.
There it
The first
is.
3 crown of the Clash Royale North American Open.
You should
And he deserves
some
that
sort of
victory
prize, some
call.
sort of- we'll give him little trophies.
Wow. Okay, so we saw a lot of flying units
Right.
in that deck.
Yes,
they
yes, we
can't,
did.
and they can't. They
All the
can't be
flying
targeted
units.
by the ground. So do they tend to have less stats and health? Or, like, tell me a little bit about them.
Oh yeah, what's their trade-off?
I'm gonna pass to Rainy on this one. I'm thinking about it a little much. I'm not.
All right.
I'm still too hype about all those lava puffs. I'm a huge Lava Hound Lightning fan,
That's
and
a
that was
lot
just that was.
damage.
I'm sorry. I'm
pretty
grinning ear to
satisfying.
ear, and I've never even met Goose. Can you imagine someone born in 2013 is playing in this tournament? Dude's 3 years old, already mastered.
This guy is a savant. He's amazing.
Air units, their trade-off.
Yeah.
Typically, I mean, there's not one. Clash Royale, Supercell did a good job of designing the cards in such a way that they aren't pigeonholed into necessarily certain attributes. So they're air units like Baby Dragon, which less damage, tanky, slow, not really that mobile. Compare that to minions. Minions are low health,
Right.
high damage, but very mobile. And then you look at the Lava Hound, very tanky, slow,
Throws out spaghetti.
and throws out a bunch of little dudes that do a lot of damage. So
Okay.
it's very varied.
Let's see if Sui Generis can take this one back.
The one consistent trade-off you'll find with air units compared to their ground equivalents is they have less hit points for the cost. But in exchange for that, they get a bonus of, well, I'm invincible to ground attacking units. So it's going to be really key for Sui Generis to make sure he uses his air attacking cards effectively against the Lava Hound. Musketeer's going to be critical. Mega Minion's going to be critical. Don't use those frivolously. Don't put them against any, don't put the Mega Minion in the left lane, because you're probably going to need that to stop that Mega Minion, or to stop the Lava Hound.
Unless Sui Generis is expecting to cycle all the way back to that Mega Minion, but I somehow doubt it because that Lava Hound is actually dying pretty quick to the Musketeer.
The Musketeer is good enough. If he could somehow get, I don't know, a second Musketeer, that might be all right. But we already know there's lightning in the deck, right? So if he relies solely on just a single Mega Minion or a single Musketeer, in a critical moment, it's going to get lightninged off the board, and he might find himself without answers.
The biggest thing to use against the Lava Hound really is to just arrow down the pups right when it pops.
Yeah.
That means that you can get away with playing something like just a Mega Minion, wait for the Lava Hound to pop, and then arrows the pups that come afterwards. That's one of the ways that you can get away with a situation like that, but Sui Generis, as far as I know, does not play arrows.
I like the push there of just trying to play a bowler by itself. You're not really sure what else to play. You know you want to save your anti-air units for the relevant attackers. But just playing bowler at the river, it forces your opponent to commit some sort of elixir, keeps them off of their whole Lava Hound plan for a little bit longer, and you might even be able to roll your way into some damage.
Rolling your way to victory and glory in the Clash Royale North American Open. These guys are playing to see who the final semifinalist is.
Quite literally bowling for dollars.
Yes, indeed. That's true. That is very true.
The giant has so many hit points, and even with the Ice Wizard slowing it, it's not killing it, and the skeletons are getting close enough.
Skeletons
You get some
are getting-
chip damage, and
no.
you take down that Ice Wizard one skelly swing at a time.
My knees, they hurt. But meanwhile, the Lava Hound is actually uncontested on the right side. Big thing to note is, remember, the Lava Hound does a wet noodle's worth of damage, and so it's kind of like a time bomb. It's ticking, but it's not taking effect yet. So Sui Generis can actually invest in the left side and then only invest in the right side when he absolutely needs to, which is what he's doing right now.
In that critical moment, the Musketeer gets lightninged off the board, leaving the Lava Pups free to damage the tower. Only down to triple digits on that tower. It's going to be 3 lightnings away, or more likely, another Lava Hound push. But with 30 seconds
Right.
until overtime, this could turn around. I really like the giant push on the left side in reaction to Lava Hound. You know your opponent has a very low elixir count, and this is the best time, if ever, just to go all in on the other lane and try to win before that Lava Hound connects.
Zaps the minion horde, but 3 of the minions remain. Has to play the Mega Minion on the left side, and we're going to see Suijinares go again with his strategy to delay playing against the Lava Hound until the last possible moment, but I think it might have been a little bit too eager because now you've got double trouble on the right side.
Goose, I think, is mere seconds away from advancing to the semifinals. I can't see anything that could stop double Lava Hound at this point, and of course the miner comes in to help. Oh, and the lightning it all off the board.
Hey,
Goose.
there you go. Goose, they're taking the second game against Suijinares, being our now final semifinalists. Moving on to the semifinals.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Goose 13 plays 2 Lava Hound decks. Reminds me of other players that we've seen before, but Lava Hound is definitely one of those decks we've seen in double deck format be fairly successful, actually, replicating on both of those
What's crazy is we saw Clyde. Clyde is playing 2 very similar decks as well. Just Lava Hound and Golem are really the cards. So both of them die and then explode into smaller units. So
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at now our first Triple Crown replay with a swarm of Lava Pups.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
So many lava
how many
pups.
things are on the board? I mean, this is like one of those guess the marble thing. The closest one gets to commentate the next game. Look at this. There's 1, 2. I mean, there is at least 15 separate individual units on the board right now.
well, Lava Hound explodes into 8 pups, right? There were 2 Lava Hounds, so that means at least 6. 2 Lava Hounds, so that means there's 12, plus the minions makes it 15, and I think there were a few skeletons there too.
This was a guess, not count.
Educated guess.
That is a very good education.
And you see here in the critical moments at the end of the game, he was able to get the tower down to triple digits with that push, and that changed the situation. We've seen this in so many North American Open games already, that once the towers get down to a certain amount of low health,
like-
the strategy changes.
yeah, it's like,
quit
just
playing
do
troops,
damage.
get your spells
Yeah.
going in there. And once Goose got into that situation, he comfortably was able to lock it in.
There it is.
You know, I really liked the Ice Wizard in that game. He used
Yes.
defensively. I haven't seen that before. What goes good with an Ice Wizard in your deck?
Towers. Actually, Ice Wizard, Ice
they're
Wizard
just great.
is probably the best defensive troop in the game. Like if I had to rank them, if we were drafting cards right now, I'd be like, Ice Wizard, come onto my team, right? Like, it's so good. It doesn't do much damage, but it slows movement and attack speed by 35%. No other card in the game.
Poisons.
Poison's 15%, so it's even more than that. Like imagine over double what a poison did. So Ice Wizard is so good there because your tower, which you have for free, it's just sitting on the map, gets that many extra shots in. Even if the thing actually comes up to the tower and starts punching, it does 35% slower damage output. Almost no other card in the game can replicate that extra damage and damage mitigation at the same time. Ice Wizard is incredible.
Ice Wizard MVP. All right, well, there we have it now. With Goose moving on to our final semifinalists. Let's go ahead and pull up the bracket to take a look so far at the story. Rainey, Rumham, first thoughts.
Rest in peace, Darth Jar Jar. Your 3 Musketeers will be missed, but that to me is kind of the standout in my head. Is that Darth Jar Jar is a avid competitor and very, very big thinker on the game, and to see him fall in the round of 8, that kind of affects me a little bit emotionally.
2 days in a row, Rainey's crying over someone who lost in the top 8. Let's talk about takeover, buddy. Takeover the clan is looking to take over the world of competitive Clash Royale. They've got Clyde at the bottom of the bracket and Eric at the top of the bracket. They would love to meet in the finals, I'm sure, but they've got to go through Trainer Rubens and Goose to get there. The cool thing in the Clyde Goose matchup is that is 4 decks, 3 Lava Hounds, 1 Golem.
Oh, wow.
Big bodies all over the board. I got it
That's
saved in
gonna
my
be
phone
fun.
under Big Booty.
That's going to be fun.
That's actually very interesting because in the last tournament, we saw an incredible amount of Reddit clan representation.
Right.
Yeah.
This time, somebody's taken over, and that's Takeover. Who was it? Killer Whale was part of Takeover. Was
Yes.
Full Frontal as well?
No, Full Frontal was Hammers Esports.
Hammers Esports. That's right. That's right. Hammers Esports, big in the Clash Royale scene, but Takeover is really, really making big things in the Clash Royale.
In fact, if you got a haiku about your clan or about your favorite troop or your favorite building, make sure to send it in.
Send it.
Hashtag ClashNA Open and we'll read it out loud. In fact, when you tweet us,
Tell us who you want to read
tell
it.
us who you want to read it, and we'll do it in character. I'll give you a good voice if we do it. You know,
You've been
if
doing
you're
a lot of
willing to
those
pick
tonight.
the rum ham, you know, if you're so generous as to do so.
Yeah. And if you pick Randy, he'll draw it. He'll create an artistic
He'll
version.
teach it to
I
you.
will.
He will
haiku.
teach you
I will do that.
your haiku
That's right.
Yeah.
in syllables.
Well, guys, we're going to go to a quick break, so do not go anywhere. When we come back, the semifinalists, who are going to be? Let us know.
Okay, let me make a really strong.
These are the rules of the duel. All duels must have appropriately epic music.
Clash Royale! Pick a fight with anyone! Clash Royale! It's got lightning and skeletons. Duel players in real time. Destroy towers in real time. While your troops take a stand, now you've got the upper hand. Destroy the kingdom in the ground and Clash Royale!
That was a rule of the duel, a most ridiculous duel. Clash Royale. These are the rules of the duel. Anything goes in the arena, and anything goes inside the goblin hut. Anything. A most ridiculous duel. Clash Royale. These are the rules of the duel. The grass in the arena must be properly cut. It's a full-time job. That was the rule of the duel. A most ridiculous duel. Clash Royale. These are the rules of the duel. The winner takes the loser's trophies. And their dignity. That was a rule of the duel. A most ridiculous duel. Clash Royale.
welcome back, Clashers and Clashettes, to the official Supercell Clash Royale North American Open.
That's right, guys. If you are just tuning in, we are getting ready to move on to our semi-finals, where, again, just a reminder, first place, take home $2,000 and the chance to move on to the Crown Duels, where then the first place will have a chance of $15,000 out of a total $100,000 prize pool.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be super awesome. Now, we guys told you to submit the haikus. They keep them coming. Later on the show, we will be reading those. You guys are doing a fantastic job. I mean, Rainey is already having thoughts of art in his head for them. But as you guys know,
Corner with Rainey.
Rumham would love to read them. So again, you can specify who you want to read the haikus as well. Now, getting ready to go into our semifinals. Let's take a look at the brackets here for our semifinals. Up first, we're going to be having Rubens versus Eric. And then finally, we're going to be having Clyde versus Goose. So now, Rubens versus Eric, Clyde versus Goose. Out of the four, Rumham, Rainey, who are the guys to watch?
Gotta say Clyde, right? I mean,
Clyde is definitely, yeah.
Clyde has the most community tournament experience. He's the most decorated tournament player remaining in these top four. We saw that yesterday where some of the top four players, guys like Marcel P, had many, badges, medals, trophies
He's
on
that
his mantle.
commander.
Of course, right. Clyde is that person. Season 1 Super Magical Cup Championship winner. Clan Royale League Season 1 MVP. Very strong in the community, widely regarded. He actually won Super Magical Cup Season 2, or the second event of Season 2. So he's really used to the double deck format. He's really used to these bracketed style events. He's got to feel very comfortable. He's going up against someone who's playing a deck that he's familiar with, and if anyone knows how to beat Lava Hound, it's probably someone who plays Lava Hound, right? So he can move around that. But we did see Trainer Rubens upset Darth Jar Jar, who is, I think, probably the second most decorated player in the field. So I would keep an eye on him. And of course, Eric, a member of TakeOver, no slouch himself.
I think it'll be interesting because, as noted, Rubens had a very spell-heavy deck, right? He had a deck that had almost 3 spells, right? 3 spells in one of them, and I think 2 in the other, something like that. But the thing is, Eric is playing mostly giant bowler decks. And spells don't deal too well with those because you spend whatever 6 elixir on spells on a tower, and he's like, great, that's 6 less elixir you have to deal with a giant, a bowler, a musketeer, a mega minion. It starts getting to the point where, and he has lightning, right? So it starts getting to the point where he can push your tower down to lightning damage levels and just close out the game on you.
Bowler's so tough. You got giant, bowler, mega minion. He's like, no, I'm gonna lightning that. Well, the giant and bowler are still standing afterwards, and you still have to defend that.
You still got something to deal with.
Okay, well, let's take a look at our first match in the semifinals. Ruben versus Eric. Who do you guys?
Yeah,
who are
out
you
of this 2
thinking?
match, who do you think it's going to be?
Rainey picks Eric.
I'm thinking Trainer Ruben. I'm feeling Trainer
Rubens has
Ruben.
an Expo deck, and given that Expo won yesterday, I'm not ready to count Expo. It's not a scrubby deck. I mean, let's be real here. So I think Rubens might have this one.
All right, and you?
Eric. We wanted to see
3 Erics.
Okay.
we wanted to see bowler against crossbow yesterday, and I think we're gonna see exactly why I feel bowler is so great against it in this match. So
Both of them start pretty cautiously. Ooh, the bowler. Oh no, what's bowler doing behind the king tower?
Ooh,
Good thing the giant came down to soak that in.
Just in time.
yeah, could have been a terrible situation. Mega Minion versus Mega Minion. Wow, Eric's Mega Minion actually wins out against that. Lightning gets played for.
Giant bowler mega minion takes a lightning. Giant bowler still standing.
Yep, giant bowler still standing, and the bowler is going to convert to at least 1 bowler on that tower unless Rubens plays. Two. I'm so good at this. Oh my gosh.
Bowler's just having fun out there every time. Just whee! No one's having more fun in the Clash Royale arena than Bowler. But again, actually, this is a weird play to me by Eric. You would think that he'd want to save the bowler for the Expo, but it's possible that he's playing it only when he has Giant in hand, and he's really playing the bowler behind the King Tower to bait the Expo out so he can then drop Giant.
I think you identified it exactly right. Mega Minion played, and this is a good example of gaining air superiority, right? Make sure that you play your Mega Minion in a way that it's protected from the opponent's Mega Minion, and so you can convert your own drop to something further.
I think Trainer Rubens is going into a plan B, and here's my guess at what the plan B is. The plan B is get an Expo in the middle of the field, defend against a giant bowler push, and as soon as it goes down, if your Expo is still alive, play a second Expo at the river with the one in the center defending the freshly placed one.
Interesting that Bowler let one of the Fire Spirits jump, and that actually evens up the match a little closer than I think Eric would like. But now he has to face the giant Bowler push coming down much closer to his river than I think Trainer Rubens is comfortable with. That Boulder is actually cleaving onto the tower in the back. Big damage done by Trainer Rubens already, and a big lightning coming out. And those Fire Spirits get taken down. This Bowler is going to have a ton of fun.
Yeah, I actually, even though the tower damage was very even before that push, I don't think the game was that close, because once your opponent shows you Giant and Bowler, your Expo is significantly less effective. I don't see how Trainer Rubens can actually set up an Expo that's going to be effective, so this might be death by 1,000 boulders.
That was interesting. I wonder why. So if you guys missed it, Eric actually played Lightning, but he missed the tower on the left side, and I think he definitely could have gotten that based on where the crossbow was positioned.
Was it possible that there were 3 higher health units nearby?
Possible. Possible.
So
that
many
tower
big,
is pretty low health.
Expo, there's, Mega Minion has about 700 health. It's possible that one.
Hopefully we can see that moment again.
That was definitely an accident, because that 100% should have died. That tower should have gone down right then. He might have been off by 1 square. So he's just got to get back to Lightning. And normally that could be a fatal game-losing mistake, but Eric is in such control of this game. The matchup is so bad for Rubens with the Giant Bowler versus Expo. The nice part for Trainer Rubens, at least, is that this Giant Bowler deck that's about to win is off the board.
Yes.
Can't play it for the remainder of the match. So Rubens gets to Expo against whatever Eric's second deck is.
And now I think you can see why we were so surprised that yesterday we didn't see Giant Bowler as a deck.
Look how effective it is. I mean, that was like when Rainey plays Christian. Like, that's how dominant that game was right there. That was pretty gross. But it was all just because, and that's not because Trainer Rubens is a bad player, but because matchups can matter a lot. And sometimes I pull up my 8 cards, you pull up your 8 cards, and I'm going 4 out of 5 times I'm losing this game, right? Sure. And that was that situation.
Okay, so if a bowler bowls and then he dies, does his boulder still make it to the tower?
Yeah, once it's out of his hands,
then
it's on its own.
It's like its own thing.
We have seen some really close games right in Super Magical Cup where a bowler gets killed and that last drifting rock ends up knocking the tower down and takes it home. So it wasn't a situation there. It didn't need to be that close, but yeah.
One of the things also I see is that a lot of these decks, the players aren't playing their final card. We don't see what the 8th card in their deck is. Is that, Rainey, their flex card, do you think? Is that a card that you just didn't find useful to use, or why wouldn't you use all 8?
I think it really depends on the situation. In that scenario, I feel like the game was so... I don't know if there were many more things that could have happened in terms of interactions in that match. Unless the decks were wildly different, I think that they kind of played out how it would be.
All right, well, into the next game. Eric up 1-0 against Rubens. If Eric takes this, he's going to the finals.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about using all 8 of your card slots in decks last Coronation Day.
So that was
this hurts.
So what happened right there was, right off the bat, Eric wanted to start with his Expo because he thought, well, maybe if he doesn't have an answer to Expo in his opening hand, this will be really effective. Now, Trainer Rubens did have an Inferno Tower, but the double Ice Spirit that froze each side of the field allowed the guards to get down, and then when they came out of the freeze, the Inferno Tower started attacking the guards instead of the Expo.
Did not want to take infinity damage.
No, not at all. Although, to Trainer Rubens' credit, he did a decent amount of damage to both towers. He did more total damage, really, but it split up across the 2 towers.
Eric is going to look to buy back his way into this game. He's going to play the Ice Spirit. Interestingly enough, probably played that to pass a turn. I would not imagine why you would want to use your Ice Spirit on an Inferno Tower just randomly in the middle of nowhere.
Probably just a cycle, get out of his hand.
Yeah.
Maybe the next card that was coming up, he knew he wanted to have in his hand to get it down. I like Eric, though. I think Eric is also setting up for the same situation, the Expo to defend the second Expo. I mean, it sounds weird because it seems like that's a really intricate, long-form strategy, but when you know that it's not going to be easy just to play an Expo by the river, you have to go to your plan B. And I think plan B in this case is, whoa, look at that! Or just shoot the princess from across the board.
Oh man, and that was actually really interesting. The Ice Column exploded on the Mega Minion on Trainer Rubens' side, and that allowed the Mega Minion on Eric's side to actually win that duel.
The Expo did not need, actually, he didn't need to fireball that tower at all. He could have just let the Expo shoot it, but I don't think he realized the long range of that Expo. And here we go, we see why they would set up. That Inferno Tower, but by the time it starts attacking, was already at half health, almost solely to the middle Expo keeping it away.
Leapfrog has to play the Mega Minion soon enough, and I think they're going to trade because of the projectile speed. Oh no! Actually, I think it was an Ice Spirit down there for Eric. Won out that exchange again. And
Expo's going to turn around.
Air superiority for Eric is really coming in big for him.
Absolutely. But Rubens is able to get in some damage here, even though might be a little worried here about that Expo on the right side. I think he feels comfortable that he can use a rotation of minor and spells to take down that left tower and at least push it into overtime.
I'm actually super interested in the fact that Eric did not choose to use the log on the skeleton army in that situation. I feel like he probably could have gotten a lot of damage if he just chose to do that, while Trainer Rubens had to commit elixir on the left side to trade towers.
Well, now he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. That left tower is down. Oh no!
Lock on.
Oh, and the miner isn't distracting it, it's just in front. Oh no, this looks like a lot of health.
This is a classic.
That's it.
That's it.
The fireball, if nothing else.
There it is.
And Eric takes the game.
Classic Expo win. Yeah. Perfect. The line of play was absolutely accurate to what Eric needed to do.
Yeah, and Eric wins with his Expo deck, wins with his Giant Bowler deck. He 2-0s in the semifinals. That's a pretty strong statement going into the finals. Rubens, who was so good against Darth Jar Jar, really felt like he was not in that match in a lot of ways. I mean, that first game was really bad. The second game was closer, but Eric had no trouble setting up Expos and getting them locked onto the towers. It was not that sort of struggle that we saw in a lot of Expo decks yesterday.
Well, congrats.
Yeah, congratulations there. We have our first one, Eric, going in. Let's take a look at our first replay. We have a Giant, a Lightning, and Randy, you said this is why this is such a great combo. Let's take a look at it again.
This is why Giant Lightning is such a great combo. Right, her. Actually, is this the one where he misses? Pay close attention.
Oh.
Nope.
Oh.
It's here. Yeah, that's not. So effective. Giant Lightning is actually so effective. Even though the Giant's down, the bowler is actually so healthy. He's at 25% health, but he gets at least 1 or 2 rolls left. You have to play guards to eliminate the bowler off the field because you know he's going to get a lot more damage if you don't.
And we've mentioned a few times that if you know the game is going to go into overtime, setting up to be at an advantage once the game goes into overtime. And that's what we're seeing here in this. That Expo was set up. Eric didn't really try to defend his left tower because he knew it was going to go down. Instead, he just wanted to make sure that he was so far ahead in the race for the second tower.
Right. Also, Randy, walk me through kind of that situation where you're a tower down. You know that, okay, I've got the spells to be able to finish off my opponent's tower. But now your goal is to do that while your opponent just now gets to start focusing on the other side. How do you balance that? How do you make sure that you're not losing too much elixir being on offense?
It's a mind game. You have to stay one step ahead of your opponent, right? Your opponent will be playing the mathematical solution because it favors him, right? He says, okay, I'm going to wait until you have to invest elixir on the weak tower, and then I'm just going to play on the other lane and make sure that, okay, you can have that tower. It's too low for me to defend anyways, but I'm going to make sure that that 4 elixir you are using on the fireball, you sorely miss. So I'm going to play X amount of elixir plus 4 on the other side to punish you for not having that. What you need to do is understand that, okay, down the road, this is a situation that I'm gonna have to deal with if overtime comes to pass, right? So you need to start playing units back behind your king tower so you can kind of fake them out, right? Say like, okay, I'm gonna feign ignorance and play a big push on the left side, and then your opponent might look at that and say like, oh my God, if I let that push go through and try to just call his bluff and play everything on the right side, if that push is big enough, it could maybe do something like 3 crown or threaten something, an additional danger, right? And that's how you need to start thinking about these situations. You may be mathematically down, then you need to start playing against your opponent's fears.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I'm at the point right now where if I see something being threatened to me, I'm like, no, I just feel like a squirrel. You know, it's like, oh, I gotta get this now.
And you shouldn't feel that way. Defending is actually at a huge advantage in Clash Royale. You get to see what your opponent plays first and then play the best card in your hand that matches up against that with the assistance of a tower. So just let the nerves, and be like these players. Calm, nerves. No one is freaking out, I'm sure,
these
on
guys
the other
are all
side
pros.
of their phone.
They're not spamming really angry faces at all. These guys are just great.
So, you guys have sent us your haikus.
That's right, we have one here.
We've got one.
This one comes from someone we've never heard before, Crane Torso.
He's just
1, 2, 3, absolutely amazing. Here it goes. It's called Cleanup. Who left this rock here? I'll just incinerate it. Now 2 rocks to clean. Thank you, Crane Torso. Your mind is needed in more than just this. You should get into politics, You should be a teacher. You should start writing amazing. This is gorgeous.
Or just play video games all day.
Or hey, play video games because it's working out. It's super great. Super fantastic.
Did it pass the test? Teacher Arthur was over there
Oh, yeah.
counting out the.
Were you creating images in your mind of what this would look like?
Yeah, there would be one rock, and there would be a stick figure with a question mark above his head. Then he would look over, and then there would be 2 rocks, and then he would be sitting on the floor, really sad with a frowning face, maybe a little tear.
I can
single
I'm
tear down his
picturing
I
it.
see
I've
it.
got some interpretive dance, I think that might.
Pablo
do it.
Picasso.
Right,
Okay,
right. You just,
okay.
you go.
We've got
There.
One
rock
You should be a
incinerate, 2
mime.
rocks. I was a mime for many moons.
You are amazing. Someone please take that video and then put music to it, and then we'll just keep that on a nice
My
loop. All right, let's go ahead and pull up the bracket now before we go into our next semifinals event. So we have Rubens falling to Eric. Eric moves on as our first finalist. Up next, Clyde versus Goose. Now, my question actually is going to be for you, Rumham, because we're talking about Clyde being a favorite here coming in. We were talking about him in the pre-show, but Goose seems
Goose.
like he's your man.
Out of nowhere.
Who are you gonna choose, Rumham?
Well, in the world of Pekka's Playhouse, the lava-filled arena where the Lava Hound originates, the people are probably cheering for Goose with his double Lava Hound deck. But me, sitting right here, I'm a Builder's Workshop kind of guy. Give me that golem, and we're gonna take that golem all the way to the finals.
Okay, Rainey, you support?
I think that between the two, actually, it's very. Normally, I would pick Clyde. Normally, I would. But Goose actually impressed me. He was pretty dominant in the round of 8.
Yes, absolutely.
It was actually pretty frightening to see.
And
We'll see
here
if he
we
can
go. Let's
convert.
take a look. Goose versus Clyde. Who do you think's gonna take it?
Those are some.
Look at those.
That's a Jay Leno chin if I've ever seen one.
Lava Hound.
I'm really excited that both of these players have easy to pronounce names. I think that's going to go a long way for me sitting here on this couch. So
English
open up
is
with
hard.
Lava Hound. Lava Hound, those are good to get on the board when you can because, of course, you're the most vulnerable when you play those big, expensive cards. Gets away with it, right? 7 Elixir on the board, and you know what? Nothing really came down. No Royal Giants, no Hog Riders, nothing to really punish them. So we're going to see just a regular Lava Hound on Lava Hound attack.
Cute little Eskimo kiss on the bridge, and the Lava Hounds make their way across to the other side. Minions are going to do a ton of damage to Clyde's Lava Hound, but similar
Oh, they pop
timing
at the
on.
same time.
It's interesting. Clyde opted to use, or rather, Goose opted to use Zap on the Lava Pups, but still took more damage to his tower than Clyde did. And I really have to chalk that up to kind of the chump units and the archers being 2 bodies to tank up shots from the Lava Pups, as opposed to Goose's lack of bodies to tank up the Lava Pup damage.
Yeah, the archers are actually in both of Clyde's lists. He's running archers as one of the 4 cards that he can duplicate across above both lists, and they're really strong right now. Nobody's playing poison anymore, and that used to be the bane of archers' existence. Instead, archers survive against arrows, they survive against log, and they're a great defensive attacker that do a ton of anti-air damage while being really hard to remove from the board on your opponent. If they want to lightning it, that seems really bad, right? Because it hits Archer 1, Archer 2 in the tower. That's not a great use of 6 Elixir.
Definitely an interesting setup to use archers. We haven't seen them in a very, very long time. Kind of similar, in a similar vein to something like Spear Goblin. But Lava Hound makes it on the left side for Goose, and it's still going strong. Meanwhile, Clyde's Lava Hound has already came and went. How will Clyde defend? I think the Tombstone is going to be pretty key for drawing the Lava Hound, the Lava Pup damage away. And actually, Clyde opts to spend 0 Elixir to stop the Pups. He's going straight for offense right now.
He's going to need that lightning on offense right here. He's going to want to hit the Elixir Collector, whatever comes up to defend the Miner. And, well, maybe not. He doesn't throw the Miner at all. He just
That's a free tower.
Yeah, it is a free tower. Well, it's really close. That lightning that was played on defense by Goose is a huge desperation play. Did not work out for him. Used lightning to try to save that tower, and instead it hit just a cavalcade of kind of chumpy units that you're not really worried about getting off the board. I think he would have been better off, Goose, playing that Lava Hound earlier, right? Just starting to move for the next lane.
How effective, I mean, Clyde really calling Goose's bluff. Clyde opted to play no Elixir on defense, knew that it was his time to go on the aggressive end, and that has to be kind of the champion's decision-making working in Clyde's favor there.
Now the reason why he cast those arrows really early to kill the minions is he's trying to cycle back to it so he can arrow the Lava Pups. But didn't need it. Clyde takes game 1 in a Lava Hound mirror matchup, something that I think would really favor Clyde as one of the innovators of the Lava Hound archetype. Actually, Clyde was the first player that we ever saw bring Lava Hound Miner to a major tournament.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. So there's a really, okay, so Lava Hound was actually already a deck. People already played Lava Hound. But what Clyde did that was really the new technology in Lava Hound decks that made them super popular was Miner. Now what happens here is when the Lava Hound dies, there's a split second where the Lava Pups don't exist yet. The tower's gonna lock on to the nearest thing and start shooting it. If there's nothing around, just locks onto a Lava Pup, starts shooting them down. Miner digs up under the ground, pops up right before the Lava Hound dies. Lava Hound dies, tower goes, no, Miner, I'll shoot that.
Pups
And the
all
Pups go
day,
crazy.
all day.
Ever since Clyde won the second Super Magical Cup of Season 2 with that deck, we have seen Lava Hound and Miner, they've been in a relationship ever since.
They're buddies. They're super big buddies.
So a difference in their decks was the elixir collector that Goose had. Do you think it helped or hurt or had any effect at all?
I think the thing that really helped in that match was Clyde had arrows, and I didn't see it in Goose's deck. Goose had, was it Log maybe? I'm not totally sure off the top of my head. We've seen
He
so many
definitely
games.
had Zap.
He definitely had, that's what it was. It
Yeah.
was Zap instead of arrows. Now the arrows are so key in that matchup because Lava Pups don't die to Zap, but do die to arrows. So part of the reason why Clyde was able to get away with not really spending any elixir on defense is as soon as those Lava Pups come out, just 3 elixir arrows done, fine. We're
Okay.
cool, moving on.
One thing too, Randy, again, I'm just going to bring it up one more time. I might bring it up multiple times. But Clyde had, again, one card that he did not use in that last one. So he won using 7
What
cards.
was it?
We will never know.
We'll never know.
We will never know.
We'll never know unless we see. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, the next game is underway. Clyde, one more game away from going on to the finals and joining Eric. Let's see if he can take it or can Goose tie it up.
I'm a big believer in eco-friendly play. If you don't need the 8th card, why use it? Just save it.
Yeah, just look at it. It looks
Save
so
it for a rainy day.
Both players very cautious. They both leaked a bunch of elixir in the early game, which I would really say is normally never worth it. But I think they were both thinking about making big plays, and Goose opens up with that Lava Hound. I think he wanted to watch and see what Clyde was going to do first before committing to Lava Hound, and Clyde's doing the same.
Here's the big body Clyde. Try to go up against Clyde in a big body match, and I think you find yourself in a very, very tough spot. Clyde did well winning the first game, but now we see the first interaction of the next. And Golem isn't quite the same as Lava Hound. Let's see what these pups can do. Again, just circumstantially, it just always seems like Clyde has enough stuff by the time the Lava Hound pops, and the pups just don't target what they're meant to.
Archers have been really great in that matchup because not only are they 2 separate bodies for spread out Lava Pups to start attacking, but they're 2 separate guns, right? 2 bows that are shooting at different Lava Pups and cleaning up the swarm as quickly as possible. Really slow attacking units are not going to be so good against the Lava Pups because they're low health and you just got to spend your time grinding between them. Great for those fast-firing duo of archers to clean up.
Yeah, I agree. I think Archers has to get a revisit, especially as you identified as Poison is kind of moving out of the meta. There's not very many, I mean, none of the 2 or 3 elixir spells remove it.
Right. And that's exactly why they're seeing a lot more play. If people were to go back to Poison, it wouldn't be that popular. Or people could Fireball if you really wanted to, but that's a 3 elixir troop getting killed by a 4 elixir spell. The Archer player's pretty happy with that normally.
Executes a less than perfect Miner tank, just a little bit late on the pop-up, lost about 2 pups before the Miner started tanking, and the Archers were left on free reign to take down the pups in the back that were being tanked for in the end. And I mean, I feel like a little bit like a broken record, but really I think Archers is a fantastic pick for Clyde.
I mean, look at that. That one Archer from the last time he casted is still alive and still shooting and doing a lot of work.
There's
wow.
a big play on Lightning. That's going to earn the pups a good amount of damage, and now finally does Clyde actually zap the pups. Is that the card that he was holding? I don't know. He's still holding an 8th card. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe it's Lightning, actually.
It's unfortunate. So the one thing that Clyde doesn't have to play in his Golem version of his big tanky build-up deck is he doesn't have to play Miner. Miner is really uniquely good with Lava Hound, but not so great with Golem. And that Miner is actually doing a lot of work for Goose in this matchup, going after Clyde's Princess over and over again.
Look at how many skeletons Clyde has on his side of the field. Tombstone has been really doing well for Clyde. And even though Goose also has Tombstone in his deck, somehow I just don't feel like it's quite as effective. That being said, Goose has constantly been putting pressure with little bits of Lava Pup damage and Lava Hound damage in combination with Lightning, and Goose is actually starting to run away with this.
Lightning has really been the deciding factor so far in that Goose doesn't have very lightningable boards on defense, but Clyde really does. I mean, the Ice Wizard, the Tombstone, the Archers, they're all getting lightninged over and over again. It's really hurting.
There we see, again, another use of the lightning card, but Princess now has a little bit of a free reign before it gets arrowed down, and I really think Ice Wizard onto the Golem is hurting Clyde a lot as well.
Right.
The Golem is so slow, but now a second Golem is going to be added on, but I think that Miner might be able to just take the game on his own.
That's it.
Oh, one more smack.
Oh, but you're
There
right,
it
one
is.
lava pup swing. You're right, so Ella, you mentioned the Ice Wizard, like when would be a good time to use Ice Wizard?
Goose was it.
Goose rode his way to the victory on the back of that Ice Wizard. Ice Wizard was holding down defense almost by itself because
good.
Golem is so slow that when you slow it down by another 35%, the tower is just going, just boop, boop, boop. And with the Tombstone in the middle, the skeletons were building up, the Golem is going out of its way to fight the Tombstone, and the whole time the Ice Wizard is adding on a little bit of damage, and the tower is just laying into that Golem.
So going back to our favorite cards, I lied a little bit. I really like Princess too.
lied?
I lied. But it seems like she gets crushed pretty easily when you
Yes.
don't handle her correctly. What is an ideal situation to bring her out and shoot those arrows?
Well, not against decks with arrows and Miner, I'll tell you that much. That's one. But no, I think the best situation for Princess is when you can play her like very far behind a push to help support. We saw Clyde trying to do that. He had his Golem moving. The Princess was really far away, trying to kill all the skeletons and Ice Wizards that were around the Golem. The problem was Goose was keeping it off the board. The biggest advantage of Princess, she shoots at such a far range, she almost doesn't have to ever really cross the river, and you can get situations where you build up 2, 3, 4 princesses and they're all firing.
Wow.
Didn't happen in
I
that
wanna
game
see
'cause-
that.
yeah.
That'd be awesome.
One card that we're not seeing, I don't think we've seen at all so far, is Mirror. We haven't seen Mirror yet. Why do you think that is?
I think Mirror is a very, very difficult card to use. I think it's actually a good card.
I like it.
I think now with the change, so Mirror previously would give you a copy of the exact same card for 1 extra elixir. Now it gets actually a level plus. And I think the only thing about it is executionally, it's one of probably the hardest cards to utilize.
All right.
You need a lot of flexibility and kind of thinking on your feet to be able to use it well.
Well, no mirrors right now, but what we do have is Clyde versus Goose. It is all tied up. One of these two players will be moving on to the finals.
Ugh.
Here's a matchup where I think Elixir Collector really matters, and it's going to be very, very good for Goose. Clyde has to prevent Goose from building up a lot of those Elixir Collectors, or else he's going to be able to put not just a Lava Hound, but a significant amount of supporting troops behind the Lava Hound, and then you're in big trouble.
Big lightning, and as you noted, Christian, this Golem is going to pop, and those skeletons are going to be pushed off the field. And maybe the minion too.
Oh,
not
no,
far
just
enough.
out of range.
But even then, look at that, over 1,500 damage already dealt just from the lightning and the Golem.
Yeah, it's a deadly combo, and this is really the price that Goose pays for playing his collector in trade to the Golem.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the long term it's going to help. Oh, wow, that's an interesting play. So what he's doing right there, that's not a mistake. He's playing it in the front so that you can't fireball it as easy, and he might even play them far enough apart that you can't lightning them both.
Oh, wow.
Also, he doesn't mind playing it on the. Okay, yeah, that's a
Good job. Oh, wow. So this, what Clyde's trying to do here is use that princess to shoot that elixir collector safely and take away all of the 8 elixir that it is storing up in there. If he could have pulled that off or maybe even killed that Mega Minion quickly, I think that would have really worked out in his favor because it would force Goose to switch some elixir to the left lane to take care of the princess.
What's really great about that situation is Goose felt compelled to spend his Mega Minion on the left side rather than playing it on the right side for the Golem. And I think that's going to earn the Golem just a few bits of damage here.
Look at these archers, though. These archers are just doing work.
Yeah, they've just
Shooting
been standing
over
there
and over
shooting.
again. And it's crazy because there's nothing in Goose's deck that can reasonably get over there and kill them. Like, I guess minions or Mega Minion at the river might be the best shot, but there's just not a lot of great openings. Less than a minute to go, though.
Yeah, and I don't know if Goose now in double elixir time has the opportunity to really play many more collectors on his own side of the map because we're gonna get close to the point where 622 health, if you have that Golem swing on your tower in any amount, oh, that might be a big explosion. No, just gets the skeletons. The arrows does clear it out. I think that's a tower for Clyde.
If nothing else, he can lightning it. It's definitely within lightning range now. So the question is can Goose get his push to the tower and get it down within lightning range? He doesn't have a fireball. He only has zap and lightning, so it's really got to get there. The princess is firing over again. It's safe over there.
This is very smart from Clyde. He knows that Goose does not have enough time to try to hatch a master plan that we were talking about before in terms of mind games. Clyde is just going to
gonna
force
lightning it.
Goose
He
to
just
play
zapped?
Elixir on the left.
He's gonna light. Oh no, he didn't lightning it. Goose could have lightning that right-hand tower, and that's why Clyde was already kind of going for that push. Wow, was he short on Elixir at the end? I didn't check his amount.
I think that Goose felt compelled to play defensive cards against the Golem, and then just did not quite have the scenario or the situation of the Elixir to play the Lightning on the right side, which is why, mathematically, Clyde took the mathematically advantageous position, right? He says, I know, because we only have 20 seconds left, you do not actually have the time to hatch the plan of playing something behind your tower and trying to play a gamble of like, oh, this is really scary, I might want to invest Elixir here. Clyde's not taking any of that. He knows that 20 seconds is not enough time for you to actually build enough Elixir to do that, so he just forced the issue. Golem at the bridge on the left side. Hey, you want to lightning down that tower? That's 6 Elixir. You don't have to deal with a Golem that's barreling down your way. If we go 1-1, I have so much of a health lead against you on that left side tower. So, checkmate.
Sweet. Well, good for Clyde. He's going to be moving on. Let's take a look at now our first replay.
Lava Hound.
Lava Hound.
The mystery of Lava Hound, of Clyde's defense against the Lava Pups is really something to behold. And on the flip side, look at how effective Clyde's own Lava Pups are. I mean, really just the troops surrounding the situation when the Lava Hounds pop, Clyde just seems to have a much better mastery of.
Let's see. In this one, this is what we saw so much of in this game. The key there was when the Golem blows up, he does a little bit of damage to people around him, and all those skeletons that have been built up from the tombstone just died when the Golem died, and that gave Clyde sort of a second wind, another chance to push through some more damage, unlike the Lava Hound that doesn't have the ability to, destroy the things that are killing it.
Yeah.
I think that really mattered in letting Clyde push through some damage.
Could you, like you said, when the Lava Hound explodes and Lava Pups come out, could you technically arrow and miss all the Lava Pups if you don't time it? Like if you
If
accidentally...
you did it too early?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Hopefully that never happens to you guys. Make sure you time your arrows wisely. Time them very wisely. Let's talk about, as we're going into pull the bracket for the finals here, we have Eric versus Clyde. Are they a part of the same clan?
We talked about this at the start of the broadcast, right? Eric, Clyde, and
Oh, that's right, Takeover.
Heels are all
Takeover is
members
taken
of
over.
Takeover, and even though Heels and Clyde, had to play each other, Clyde knocks them out, Eric and Clyde are able to move through their sides of the bracket, meeting in the finals. Yesterday, we had a finals between 2 Reddit clan system members, and today we have 2 Takeover members against each other.
Clans are strong.
I'd love to see a grudge match between enemy clans as opposed to a family fight that's going on here.
Right now,
but-
Takeover's like, we're fine. Like, whoever wins, this is great. This is kind of
they're
fun.
gonna be
This is for
happy no matter
internal
what.
pride.
Who knows? Maybe it'll break apart. Maybe they'll just be
Oh.
like, you
Oh,
ruined
no.
it for me.
that would be awful. All right, so let's go ahead and pull up the decks now for both of these players. We have Eric, and we've got Clyde. Oh, and
Nope.
Goose. No,
that should be
We
Eric.
don't got Goose. We got Eric and Clyde.
Yeah, that was the semifinal deck matchup. There.
Hey!
No,
Still not
right.
it. It's passable.
That's fine.
We actually have the list. Eric was playing an Expo deck, and the other was Giant Bowler, right? So what do you think is going to be the key matchup where it's got Golem and Lava Hound versus Giant Bowler and Expo, a much more diverse finals than we saw yesterday.
Which was just X.
All those expos.
Yeah.
It's going to be all up to Clyde's lightning usage. When he makes the call to lightning the crossbow, how he's going to deal with trying to find value, lightning, other things alongside the crossbow, because I feel like that's going to be the big changing thing for Clyde. He's playing Lava Hound, right? If he cannot find some way to shut down that Expo aside from playing his Lava Hound and trying to raise tower damage, he's going to find himself in that situation that we saw in the last Coronation Day, where he's starting to run out of units to put in front of the crossbow, and it does a lot of damage to your towers every time the 6 Elixir is played on Eric's side.
Yeah. The hardest matchup, I think, for Clyde is going to be the Lava Hound versus Expo matchup. And remember, we're playing in the final, so it's best of 5.
best of
so
5.
Players can actually win up to twice with one of their decks.
Yep.
I think it's really going to be an Eric's ball game to try to get that Expo as much as possible against the Lava Hound. Those are easy wins, I think, because as soon as the Lava Hound comes in the air, drop Expo on the ground, lock onto the tower, shoot away.
So, Rainey, if you were in the finals right now, if this was you, let's say you're Eric, which deck are you going to play twice? Which one do you think you're going to pick? What's your comfort pick?
My comfort pick. Let me think. I'm playing Clyde.
Yeah.
He has Lava Hound and he has
You know this
Golem.
guy. He's in your clan.
He has Lava
You probably
Hound and he
prepared
has
for this
Lava.
event.
You probably thought about it. Yeah, you might have practiced
Yeah,
against
that's
it.
very true. I wouldn't play the Expo deck.
Okay, so you're going to go with the log.
I would try to Giant Bowler.
Giant Bowler.
I would try to Giant Bowler.
Giant Bowler it's weird. Giant Bowler has a great matchup against Lava Hound, but Golem is a great matchup against Expo. So both of them are kind of mind gaming each other right now, which decks they're going to match up, because we saw how dominant it was in the quarterfinal match when Eric just trounced Rubens. If you've got a good matchup,
2-0.
it's over, right? And I think that's what we're going to try to see with them, is they're going to see who's lining up their decks against each other.
Who's it gonna be, Clyde or Eric? Let us know in chat. Here we go, guys.
Again, this winner taking home $2,000 and moving on for a chance at the Crown Duels.
Eric versus Clyde. Man,
Great log.
Yeah, that log. That's one of the
No,
reasons.
I'm serious.
why-
I mean, like that log is such a beautiful card. It's the only 2 elixir card that's going to take out Princess all the way back there.
Yep. Zap can't do it.
I mean, think about this. The Princess is still alive. She's shooting at that ice golem right now.
Sure.
It's taking elixir right out of your pocket.
Could even be damaging the tower.
Ooh, great time
yep.
for that Expo to come up, because Lightning just came out of Clyde's hand. He's down 6 elixir. He doesn't have that much to defend with.
And we were talking about your decision making on Lightning is going to make or break this match. Good thing he has Tombstone down, though.
Yes.
Oh, but the Tombstone is played too far back. Ah, God. Oh, no. Counting how many bolts the crossbow shoots.
And I believe this is actually the Golem deck, which is the worst situation for you to find yourself in, Clyde. Like, you wanted to have that Golem in hand, so if an Expo came down, you just drop the Golem in the middle, forget about it. You're done. You're fine after that. But instead, it looks like he's going to lose a tower in the first minute and a half of the game.
Slow speed.
It's not quite done.
Ice Wizard's a pretty good anti-Expo card, but already Eric is moving towards the next cycle. Oh, no! Clyde did exactly what we didn't want to happen. We mentioned that. That's what happens. If you play the Golem, you are most vulnerable. You're down 2 elixir, can't defend. If he would have seen the Expo, could have dropped the Golem in front. Instead, Clyde was thinking, the Expo just died. I'll get my Golem on the field now and then be ready for it. He did not think Eric already had cycled back to Expo.
Now, the game is not lost. We still have 1 minute 12. And the big problem with Expo against Golem is that you can't actually do so much damage to the Golem. It's entirely possible, and I think Clyde should really adjust his strategy to trying to 3-crown Eric.
That's a good point. You can just auto-win the game in the next minute or so if you can just 3-crown that. It's going to be tough, though, because...
He's going to get aggressive drop. I would say drop a second. Oh, Golem aggressively!
In the back.
We'll see. I think that might have been the smarter choice. There's no rush for time, and I think Clyde is probably smart to play patiently. I mean, he's a champion, I'm not, and I think he made the right decision.
The question for me is, can that Golem even reach the tower meaningfully in the next 40 seconds? And Golem is slow.
Yes, that is true.
And another Inferno Tower could come out and distract it away.
That's definitely, he's running out of time though. The Inferno, it's still gonna go to the King Tower, so it really comes down to how much damage can, oh, it's a big lightning, and this might be an aggressive tombstone too. The skeleton is gonna be very, very key in this push, and I think Clyde's trying his best to make it happen. It's
The
a
skeleton's
slim
still
shot.
working.
It's gonna take a miracle, but Clyde is working at it. There's 13 seconds left for something to happen, but no, I don't think he can, but I
Clyde
think he was
knows
on the right
all it
strategy.
needs is a log or a fireball.
It's so interesting too. I wonder if Clyde had been able to set that up somehow on the left side, which again, because of my mediocre lesson on drop zone advantage, you can't.
That was not mediocre.
You can't exactly emulate that situation. But if you look at the damage that he did to the King Tower, it's 2,000 damage plus. That could have very likely, if I don't know, the game would have to be so different. But I see a world where Clyde could have done the same thing, perhaps on that left side tower, and even the game up.
I think because of the Inferno Tower, it was actually smarter for Clyde to just pass on it, because here's the thing, 8 elixir, you can't support that Golem with anything, and Golem doesn't do that much damage.
Yes.
If you drop Golem in the middle there into that Inferno Tower could reasonably kill both Golems, and then you're in real trouble. And even if the Golem does get free, the Golem's not the thing 3-crowning, it's the archers behind, it's the skeletons behind that. I think he was smart to try to build up that big push, but Eric correctly identified the situation. Don't be aggressive, don't be crazy. Let's just put everything on defense and hold it off.
So do we think that was just a bad matchup deck-wise for Clyde, or
We'll see it in the replays. Here's exactly what happened. Twice in a row to open the game, Clyde invested a lot of elixir just as an Expo came down and didn't do it in the front yard like he should have. I think if Clyde wants to play the Golem deck again, maybe if they had to replay that game, just start your Golem pushes from the middle. Don't even worry about Golem behind. The Expo deck can't stop you a lot of times. Like, it doesn't have a lot of good defense there. So just always start your Golems close enough that they can absorb an Expo if one comes down.
Randy, you're talking about how you thought Clyde was going to play that Golem aggressively. He's like, oh, he's going to play it right in the middle. It's going to be great. He's going to go for it. And he decided to pull it back. Why do you think that was?
Well, the Inferno Tower was there already. Runham identified that very well. If you play the Golem in the middle and the Inferno Tower immediately locks onto it, the Golem is expensive enough that you don't actually have the supporting elixir to stop that Inferno Tower from burning it down. I was kind of wondering what that interaction would be like, because the first Golem had already split to mini Golems that could perhaps tank the Inferno Tower, but still, it's a very big gamble, and I think Clyde made the right choice, the safer choice, playing the Golem into that.
It's in a very similar setup, except
There
this
it
time
is.
that Golem might actually walk in front, and it does.
Yeah.
Now you see the difference, right? Starting the push right there from the middle of your base allows
Well,
at least the
listen to your
Expo to
advice.
not murder the tower. Not much you can do about that Inferno Tower. Maybe you could lightning it, but he's got he only had 4 elixir at the time, couldn't lightning it. But for
Yeah.
future pushes.
I think lightning is definitely the play here. Just get the damage on the tower. Don't worry about putting the archers or the ice wizard anymore. Just lightning it, get the damage on the tower.
I think a log's going to come down and perhaps stop this push with the guards.
Actually, Ice Wizard is going to help that Golem do a pretty significant amount of damage. Much more than the Archer. It's a race. The Archer might kill the guard. No, doesn't get it. But still, significant damage done by Clyde.
And the Princess might even be far enough back that she doesn't get hit by a log and is able to defend without taking any damage. That's great use of Princess. You're asking when's a good time to Princess? The one right there.
Bye.
The log hunts during the bright sunny desert day as well, it turns out.
That's
So
right.
sad.
Now, Eric is in a bad. Okay, so that's why. So why would you fireball a Tombstone, right? It's a 3 elixir card. It doesn't do much. Why would you spend 4 elixir on it? The answer is, as long as Tombstone's on the field, really hard to put up an Expo. So Clyde is going to rotate between his Tombstones and his Golems to prevent his opponent from ever having a clean path to the his own towers.
Fireball the Tombstone, but now has to deal with the Golem. Yes.
Lightning
I
is.
think
Dum, dum, dum.
there it is.
That's why there was no archers or ice wizard to back it up, is that he knew he was saving that elixir to try to lightning, get damage on the tower, and continue to push further.
Yeah, and this Golem is probably not going to do significant amounts of damage, but really what Clyde's looking for is lightning damage on the tower, and then anything else he can get extra.
Tombstone is going to get the Ice Wizard down, and the Tombstone gets down. A lot of stuff there to gum up that potential Expo attack. Oh no, they were too close together for a fireball.
This is interesting. I think that lightning is the option to go here. Yeah.
We actually, if you remember yesterday, there was a Hog Lightning deck played by another member of TakeOver, the Killer Whale, who did really well against the Expo decks. He ultimately didn't win, but that Hog Lightning deck certainly earned its keep.
Yeah. Clyde is playing much better around these crossbows this time around. That's another lightning right there. Every single
The
time.
Inferno Tower might be out of range.
Yeah, I think so. But really, the Inferno Tower is not what you're worried about.
Very good point. You can just let it sit there. And actually, the blowing up of the golems really helps. It kind of helps take it down. I think Clyde's he's waiting for that exact right moment. He's more worried about not letting an Expo get set up
Yes.
than he is about finishing the game.
Yes, I think playing defensively is absolutely the right choice. Here comes a Fireball. Needs to make sure that he has enough elixir to drop a Golem if he needs.
He needs to spread his stuff out a little more, too. I mean, that's twice now a critical fireball that could have lost him the game comes down.
Ice Wizard Golem is on the field, and there's just no opportunity for Eric to play a crossbow. And I think that Clyde has played out his hand pretty well here.
Oh, wow. One more lightning. So even though Clyde has sub-1,000 health on his tower, if this Inferno Tower can go down, if you don't open yourself up to too many bad Expos, he might be able to win the game as soon as he gets back to 6 elixir.
That's going to be a Fireball to answer, but I think Clyde's going to trade that Fireball with a Lightning.
He's just trying to get it, and now he needs... Oh, no. What's that Princess doing? Next card should be a lightning. So one more elixir. There's the 6. Does he shock it for the win?
There it
he
is.
does.
Yep.
That's a much cleaner win. That's how you would normally expect that matchup to
Yes.
go, as opposed to in the first match, Clyde really maybe not super focused on the Expo matchup and played some classic mistakes that Eric very, very clearly identified and punished Clyde on.
Right.
Were those the same decks that we saw
I
before?
believe
Yes.
so.
Rematch, total
So-
rematch.
Yeah, total
Okay.
rematch. So both of them have one win with each deck, but normally a win means you can't play the deck for the rest of the round. So we're playing best of 5. They each get one more win with each deck. So actually, 1-1, we're kind of starting that best of 3 right now
Yeah.
with only one win
Yeah,
for
that's a
each.
good way to look at it.
Yes.
What was different from the first game to the second? It was a big difference.
I think Clyde, you make 1 or 2 critical mistakes against Expo, you lose the game. And we saw that in the first game where in the very opening thing, he just couldn't stop that first Expo. Tower went down. Tried to play the Golem as kind of a bluff there, like, all right, I don't think he has Expo. I'm going to get the Golem down and try to build that big push. Gets punished with the second Expo. Fool him twice.
Shame on
Yeah, you're not going to fool him a third time.
shame on those people. Shame on those guys.
Everything's just so shameful.
Yeah. So Rainey, talk to me when you're playing against someone and it's kind of the beginning of the match. You have no idea what they're playing. You have no idea what cards are in their deck. how much of the first minute of the game, first 30 seconds, what's the time frame that you are trying to figure out your opponent versus you're executing your strategy?
You are playing cards intentionally to test your opponent, right? So, for example, a lot of players like to play crossbow at the start if they have it in hand because you are testing your opponent to see what cards they will play.
If they have a 50-50 chance, they don't have it.
Yeah, if
Okay.
they either don't have it, or if they do have it, they will certainly play it, right? Because they're not just gonna let the Expo hit your tower and be like, heh, but he still doesn't know that I have the bull in my hand. It's like,
Super mind games.
great.
And I think
buddy.
Eric could do that again. I mean, in this game, really aggressive tower hunting cards like Hog Rider, Miner, Expo. The first one is usually the most effective one because the opponent hasn't prepared for it yet. They're not set up in a way where they're really able to deal with it. So we could see another Expo right off the bat here, just to test if Clyde even has his golem.
Let's see.
Right. Ice Spirit hops onto the tower. The princess survives for a little longer, but I think it's not long until we see the log rolling in, taking down that princess.
Might even hit those sad archers as well.
Mega Minion moves across as the fireball takes down the tombstone.
I really wish Clyde would adapt here. I mean, he's falling into the same pattern of playing too many things close together. Oh no, it's a little too far back. That's gonna lock onto the tower. Oh no! Oops, indeed.
Oops, he knows.
Yeah, wow, big mistake in this critical game here. I wish Clyde would do a few things. A, play your golem a little further up. But B, quit playing all the things in that inside lane between your king tower and crown tower. He's eaten so many fireballs over the last few games. Just play the archers in the upper right corner or something like that instead.
Opts to zap the Inferno Tower rather than use lightning, and I think that was one of the big things that was helping Clyde win the previous game, was making sure that he stayed on top of his elixir management, had enough for lightning the Inferno Tower, the crossbow, and the tower. I think the little bit of timing, I might also say for Clyde, just cut your losses, don't play any other cards other than your golem, and just lightning the Expo and the tower, and then let that retarget onto your golem, and then play out from there.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why Clyde is being, I get why he's being really cautious with playing the golem. He doesn't want to get blown out by an Expo, but why even be so cautious as to play it that far back, right? That's a pretty good lightning target. It's only 5 elixir, but might be worth it to get all those cards off the board.
There it is. A big lightning takes down the Mega Minion, resets the Inferno Tower, and also lowers the Ice Column health to insignificant amounts.
10 elixir worth of troops with just 8 of 6 elixir lightning. Pretty good exchange overall.
And we see that Eric has to drop guards and then Ice Golem to make sure to mitigate the damage from the skeletons incoming. The Golem Knights are getting a good amount of swings off onto the tower, maybe about 300 damage here.
I would expect Eric to play an Expo perhaps in the middle. Yep, there it is, right? Because he doesn't need to attack any more towers with Expo. It can be a purely defensive structure at this point. It's going to pull the Golem towards the center of the board. It's going to contribute a little bit of damage, even though it won't be that much. I think Eric pretty much has this game locked in now. I don't know how a Golem deck can beat something with 2 towers like that.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting situation.
I think, I don't know what he can do. I think Clyde might just be kind of playing it out here. There's only 10 more seconds. It's really tough. The thing that's really been hurting him in these games, too, is the Ice Wizard and Archers. When it gets close like that, they get fireballed every time. He's got to figure out a way to separate those cards a little more. Maybe playing Archers at the river in the center so they can just shoot across at the defending troops instead of being right behind where the Ice Wizard is going to be as well.
Eric now one step closer to $2,000. He just needs to win one more game.
We saw Clyde make some mistakes in that. You're at the Clash Royale North American Open,
Brought to you by Supercell.
and you're under so much pressure. How do you just take a second and evaluate the mistakes that you've made and adapt to go into the next round?
Well, I hope they're doing that right now, right? And unlike a lot of events, you get a couple minutes break here where we talk about the last game. He gets a chance to breathe, recollect, go, all right, I just need to win 2 games. I've won many more than that. Eric, on the other hand, taste in blood, because he can't play his Expo deck, but he does have a Giant Bowler deck, and Giant Bowler is going to be pretty fine against either Lava Hound or Golem, so I'm not really sure what Clyde's going to do here. Clyde knows that Eric has to switch to Giant Bowler, so he has his choice of whichever deck he wants to beat it twice.
Sure.
But what are you going to pick? And Giant Bowler can really beat anything. It doesn't have that many bad matchups.
So, Rainey, if you're Eric, right, he took that tower super early on. So now you have, let's see, a minute and a half left. You're like, okay, I just got to defend now. I just have to make sure my towers don't fall at all. When I try to do this in the game, when I'm like, oh, I took a tower early, I just got to go on defense. This is easy. It comes back and bites me. How do you turn your cards and start thinking of them in a more defensive way?
I think that, first off, playing purely defensively is a little bit of a kind of misconception.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a misconception. Oftentimes, a good defense also includes a small amount of offense, right? You have to realize that when you threaten tower damage, your opponent needs to answer that or just accept the new situation of now I'm down X amount of health on my tower, right? So the big thing about playing defensively is sometimes your best choice is to play a card on the other lane aggressively just to make sure that they play options that they would have preferred to use on the weaker tower side. They have to play it defensively on the other side where it becomes irrelevant, or they spend enough elixir and you don't have to worry about a huge push coming down your lane. So purely playing defensively, I think, actually puts you in a slightly bad spot in some situations. You need to realize how to play aggressively in order to gain a defensive advantage.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Potentially the final game here at the Clash Royale North American Open Coronation Day 2. Will Eric take it, or will Clyde back and tie it up?
Those two skeletons are actually doing a good amount of work there behind Clyde's effort. I mean, they're doing some stuff. They killed a whole bunch of skeletons coming out of the tombstone, but that Lava Hound does connect.
Lava Pups do a little bit of damage, about 300 done, but the Mega Minion did a pretty good job cleaning up 3 of the Lava Pups in the back.
Eric is not going to stop, though. The Bowler is sort of an interesting card in this matchup because the only thing it's really going to bowl over is, I guess, the Archers, and it's very vulnerable to the Mega Minions that are going to come out, and of course potentially the Lightning as well. So he's going to do it here, but it'll be really important for both players to watch how effective this Bowler is, and if it's bad, Eric shouldn't be playing it after that, and he's got to figure out another way to win the game.
Yeah, Mega Minion placed in a good spot against the Lava Hound. We'll start working on the health of it. Giant makes its way over to the Tombstone, and we see just how effective Tombstone is to defend against the Giant. The Bowler was actually too far behind and couldn't actually support the Giant in that push, and I think that might be the downfall of this connection here for Clyde. Clyde gets a little bit of chip damage from, misses the timing
Too
there.
late. I think he actually would have done better if that miner was in front of the tower instead of behind. The idea there is he was trying to make the miner pop up in front of the tower before the tower started shooting at the Mega Minion. So even though the Mega Minion had low health, it could have flown up to the tower and started attacking it. He left himself very vulnerable, though, to this giant Bowler push that's doing a huge amount of damage.
I am actually interested in why Clyde ceded so much damage on that left side tower. Opts to play the Lava Hound instead.
I think he's just given up on it and going to use the Mega Minions and Lightning and things like that to try to stop it, or unless the tower absorb it, I guess. Like, I think he realized that was a futile thing to defend against. He was losing that tower no matter what.
Yeah, it's really tough. Playing the Tombstone actually would not have helped that scenario because the Bowler was so close to the Giant as opposed to the other time where the Bowler was actually lagging very far behind. That was a big reason why you would play the Giant and Bowler close together right there.
Really fringe interaction we just saw there. If Ice Spirit jumps on the Lava Hound just as the Lava Hound dies, all of the pups come out frozen. And those Lava Pups spread all the way out and stayed in a frozen state for about 2 seconds, leaving that push to be pretty ineffective.
Lava Pups continuing to chip away damage onto the tower, but I think with 7 seconds left.
Is that a 3-0 for Eric in the finals?
It's 3-1.
3-1. Clyde got one.
Clyde got the very first game.
But it doesn't matter.
You're right.
Because which win matters the most? The
last one.
That's right, the last win. And it's going to be Eric taking first place, $2,000, and moving on to the crown duels for that $15,000 place. Well, there we have it. Yesterday, it was Expos, just Expos. Today, Expos and now Giant Bowler. We got some Lava Hounds. Just a fantastic matchup.
What did it come down to in that last match? Do you think?
Why such a dominate? You said he was saying, "Oh, I just lost my tower. I'm just going to go ahead and take that." And if you lose one defense like that, can it just be over from there?
What does your strategy become? Do you have one?
I think the key thing is that Eric's name starts with E. 100% of Clash Royale North American Open winners have had a name that started with E.
Oh, that's what it is.
No, but truthfully, what Clyde was...
Does that mean I can be one too?
That's it. That's right. You're on the way.
way.
No, I think what Clyde should have done there, and it didn't really work out, I don't think it would have really mattered in that game, was to go down the tower, the lane that was already kind of weakened, because when he went down that left side, when I already had full health, I think he might have known it was wiped out at that point. These expert defenses from these best players make it really hard when you fall down a tower to come back. It's a lot like chess in that regard. I mean, chess masters.
Like once you're down.
Yeah, you lose a rook, you're done, right? And that's what happens. You get these towers, one of these towers go down. Very, very tough to recover.
The Expo was such a key component to Eric's victory, and I think that just Clyde's folly in playing the Golem just not in the exact spot that he needed to hurt him way too much in this series.
I don't want to take anything away from Eric, because Eric absolutely won this series with stellar play, but I think there was a lot of games that Clyde gave away. I mean, I could think of at least 2 of the games that Eric won where Clyde made fatal mistakes that if he had done it differently, who knows how the game would turn out. Maybe he would have lost anyways, but he definitely lost it when the Expo locks onto the tower.
Yeah, I mean, just look at how much damage. The thing is, too, the Golem is so slow. Slower than anything you would ever imagine. I mean, the Giant looks like Sonic compared to
And it doesn't do that much damage against the towers. So even if it does get up to the Expo, it's kind of just like nudging it with its nose and not being really threatening. This giant bowler here was, I mean, unreal. If you look at the elixir, even as that 10 elixir push is mashing on the tower, Clyde still didn't have 10 elixir.
Yes.
Right? He was so far behind at that point.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, before we go ahead and crown our champion, Rainey, Rumham, let's go ahead and pull up the brackets of today just to look at the story. Totally different from yesterday.
It's so different.
Because yesterday, again, tons of expos, all
Expo.
expos. Today, we got some expos, we got some bowlers, we got some lava hounds. So
I think what we saw was a lot of cards that were really good against Expo. I mean, the Golem was out there, the Giants were in force. It's good job for Eric for still recognizing that Expo is a very powerful deck and winning with it as one of his 2 decks, but the field was far more diverse because people were not willing to go down to Expo that easy.
Walk us through this story of tonight.
Let's follow. I mean, really, Eric, to me, is a standout performer in today's Clash Royale North American Open. Lozano had the Hog Rider matchup, and Eric absolutely demolished it. And I think that is just picking the right decks, playing the game in what he understands to be the most effective manner. Crossbow and Giant Bull are definitely great choices, and Lozano felt the full force of that. Trainer Rubens had a very unique deck coming into this, but in double deck format, I think you really need to back up your deck choice if it's going to be really, really unique in that manner. Similar to how Trainer Rubens defeated Darth Jar Jar, Trainer Rubens then gets a piece of his own kind of sandwich.
piece of his own sandwich.
A piece of his own sandwich.
I love that.
I mean,
Great.
shout out though to Eric and Goose, the only people to actually 2-0 sweep any of the matches. And of course,
Yeah.
shout out to Clan Takeover for having 2 members.
And a
in the
3 crown
finals.
tonight.
And a 3 crown, you're right.
Crown.
Goose, come back.
Yeah.
I like to say your name.
That's right. That's right.
So not only is Eric taking home $2,000 and a trip to the Crown Jewels, but his name will go down in Clash history. So if you want to be like Eric, go to ClashRoyaleOpen.com and make sure you sign up for our next Opens and Coronation. You could get into the Coronation
That's
Day,
right.
which
You
is
get-
what is happening right now.
Yeah, you guys could be here. Our next Coronation Day is going to be Wednesday, the 26th. You guys make sure you come back and watch some amazing duels. And if you want to be a part of them, be a part of them. We have 14 more of these to do before we then go on to the arena battles. And so if you guys want a chance at $2,000 and then moving on for $15,000, go to Supercell HQ. Go ahead and sign up when you guys could be a part of that. But enough of that, guys. It is now time for our second coronation. It's time to crown our champion. Today, it was Eric. Eric showing that the Expo is still powerful, but that you don't just need an Expo. Eric showing that a bowler can be just as effective in those situations. Eric showing that he should be the clan leader right now. Eric, this one's for you. Ella, would you do the honors?
Here we go, Eric.
There you go. Congratulations, Eric. You are the man, our second champion here tonight. Well, that will do it for us. On behalf of everyone here at the official Supercell Clash Royale North American Opens broadcast out of NGE Studios in Burbank, that was Rainey and Rumham.
I'm Ella.
I'm Christian.
Have a most ridiculous night.